All right, the usual slowdown starting to build, especially northbound 65 to go eastbound on 440. And then it looks like southbound, or actually eastbound 24, right before the 65 split. Got some heavy brake tapping developing there just north of downtown. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, kids. Welcome in just after 3 o'clock, 3:06 to be precise. My name is Matt Murphy. Conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's get the pleasantries out of the way and get the show lumbering under its own weight. It is episode 735 today, our 735th visit together, and I'm pleased and proud to have been a part of every single one of them. Well, I'm kind of integral to it, but you get what I'm saying. It's also Locks for Trump Day 327, and to answer your 187 questions. No, I don't know when it's coming off, and I don't know what we're doing with it. I just know that I decided to wear a hat today because I'm getting kind of tired of it. I'm tired of putting goop in it, and I'm tired of not putting goop in it and it just going everywhere because I've got that Savage Redskin hair. Look who's back. I just realized something.
Somebody here?
I just realized Chris Webber is back in the house. What is up, Webber?
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm better.
You feeling a little bit better?
Yeah, I actually feel like a human today.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
far
good.
departure from the last few days.
I would like to formally and officially thank you for having the wherewithal to be a grown-up and recognize that it is no good to be an office hero when the case may be that you are contagious. I thank you for that.
Yeah, well, that's not really why I did it. I did it because, well, I had to stay close to a facility.
Understood.
For quite a few days, but yeah, the point's still taken,
and not to carry over your private business into the public arena that is this radio show. But you said a mouthful. We, the three of us, the three that you hear more often than most on this radio, this part of the day, that would be Chris Webber, Ken Weaver, and myself. Hello, Mr. Weaver.
How about you?
How's it going?
It's going good.
We were.
I just got back from down the hall, so I'm doing real good.
Oh, you all right? You okay?
Oh, I'm fine.
You still got all of it back there? You didn't get any of it chewed off, did you?
No.
Oh, was that part of the hallway? It wasn't downstairs, was it?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking.
No.
Just want to make sure.
You just got a new cup of coffee.
Yeah, it's just what happens after I have too much coffee.
Oh, I see. The other side of the hallway. I've got you. I thought you meant the principal's office. We were in the principal's office earlier today.
Yeah.
Not for anything bad, but you said something that resonated with me.
What's that?
There is Chris Webber, he's been sick.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not trying to get into his business, but there is, as a grown human being on this planet Earth, in the good old United States of America, in the volunteer state of Tennessee, I'm here to tell you, there's nothing worse than not being sure you can make it.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling.
I mean, that's all I'll say about it. And I don't know if I can find you a worse situation in that situation than being in the car.
Yeah, on a 7-hour trip from back home to current home.
Oh, my God.
Not a good feeling.
Honey, we just stopped. Yeah, and we have to stop again.
Yeah. Literally the entire, as soon as we pulled out onto the highway from my parents' house, I told Jessica, I said, this is going to be a long ride home.
It's going to be a long trip.
I'm not feeling too good.
I just don't.
But I'm better now, so.
Well, I'm glad you're better. It reminded me, I flashed in my head, a couple of situations flashed where, are you serious? It's 8 miles to the exit? I don't know. Just might have to.
The exit is now.
When you start considering alternate options at that point and you got 8 miles to go, it's like, that's bad news. But we're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Chris Webber back in the house behind the glass. Ken Weaver, of course, gathering headlines. What a day yesterday. I mean, a sad day. A breaking news day. Great work yesterday, Ken Weaver. It is not easy doing what you did all day, all afternoon long in that newsroom, and I just appreciate you so much for keeping us up to date with everything that's going on.
Well, it's a team effort, dude. It's a team effort. Everybody helped out. Everybody had great information. Your guest,
Brink is the best, man. He's just the best.
That was very timely, important information that he was providing. It opened my eyes on a couple of things, especially whenever we started talking about metal detectors.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an easy deterrent. But then you start getting into the details about schools with more than 2,000 students in them, and that's a whole different story.
Well, right. You have to have more than one entry point and exit point. Certainly more than one entry point at the beginning of the day. You have to have more resource hall. I mean, yeah, you're opening up. It's a lot more to implement than just saying, oh, let's have some metal detectors.
Let's just have some metal detectors.
And that'll solve everything. And Brink brings up the fact, and look, all ideas are good ideas when it comes to brainstorming how to stop these types of things.
Sure.
But if someone has decided, if they are mentally unstable enough, if they have something inside of them, evil, call it what you will, that leads them to commit such an atrocious act, aren't they just going to walk around the metal detectors to do it? I mean, right?
Exactly.
The metal this is not fencing. Sadly, there are no guarantees. In a society that believes in freedom of movement, freedom of association, we enjoy those freedoms on a regular basis, and oftentimes, most often, we don't have to worry about someone trying to attack us or get after us.
Well, and then another thing is, think about, every morning you're going to have kids lined up to get into school.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting ducks.
Right. That's right. Yes. I didn't think about that.
Don't even have to go in the school.
You got them gathered together around trying to get into the metal detector. I mean, it is not a guarantee in our society, and we try to make it 100% of a guarantee, but we will not make it. I mean, look, you know who doesn't have school shootings? I mean, and I'm not trying to oversimplify this. I'm not trying to, but it is a fact. You know who doesn't have school shootings? The North Koreans. They don't have school shootings. The Chinese, they don't have school shootings. They also don't have liberty. They don't have freedom.
Bingo.
And so it is always a balancing act to balance the best security measures that we can possibly muster in Nashville, in Tennessee, and around the United States of America to protect our children, but also guaranteeing the freedoms and the liberties that we love that make America special and what it is. But a great job by you. If at any point we have any updates on the story that we're not covering on this end, you just let us know, Ken, and we'll bust right into that. And I know you'll have it at the top and the bottom as well. So a lot to get into out of Washington, D.C., obviously. The President of the United States of America has signed executive orders opening up the Kennedy files. That's great news. Just waiting on that Area 51 to be popped open as well. But the Kennedy files, they're getting opened up, baby, which, absolutely love it. He also opened up the MLK files and the RFK files. Some of this will be a little bit, if they open them all the way open, if they open these files wide open, the United States of America is going to get a little bit embarrassed because our government of the United States of America in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s did a hell of a lot of surveillance on our citizenry that I don't think that we would stand for in modern American society. But there was a lot going on. Obviously, J. Edgar Hoover had a lot to do with that as head of the FBI. One of the reasons that I believe that we have to if we want to regain trust in a federal intelligence gathering service, one of the ways you have to do that is you have to dismantle the FBI and rebuild whatever you're trying to accomplish from the ground up. Because sadly, we cannot trust the head of the snake when it comes to the FBI. And it's not like it's a new thing. The FBI has always acted extracurricular to the Constitution of the United States of America. And come at me, bro. I'm ready. If you want to fight me on that point, let's go. Because y'all know, let's be real, folks. J. Edgar Hoover engaged in surveillance against perceived political enemies and kept files on said political enemies to include JFK and RFK and MLK and a hell of a lot more. So I'm here for it. Look who's calling me. I wonder who this is. Someone that doesn't know I'm on the radio. My apologies. I forgot to turn my phone down.
I like that ringtone.
Oh, thank you. That's the way I feel. I feel like I'm Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm half the time. Yeah, that's the old ringtone for me. So anyway, we'll get into that. Executive orders. Donald Trump also has the Laken Riley Act on his desk. Good for the United States of America. Good for the House of Representatives. Good for the Senate. And shame on the Democrats that voted against this thing. We'll talk about that. As expected, President Donald Trump, so good to say, still feels good to say. President Donald J. Trump signed an executive order banning or eliminating or ending the concept of birthright citizenship. This and the Jan 6 pardons, more than anything else, have liberal minds on #NeverCNN exploding, liberal minds on MSNBC exploding. They cannot imagine how Donald Trump would do such a thing, despite the fact that he's made promises that he was going to do just that over the course of the last, year that he's been running for president of the United States. We always knew when he signed this executive order that it would have to go through the court systems. We always knew that you would find some judge, liberal or otherwise, some judge was going to look at this and say, this is ridiculous. The 14th Amendment guarantees that people who are born in the United States of America are born citizens of the United States of America, despite the intent of the 14th Amendment. And we can get into the history of it, and will get into the history of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was a part of the beginning of solving the sin and stain of slavery in the United States of America. And the 14th Amendment wanted to make sure that those that had been brought here in bondage understood that they were citizens of this country, regardless of their status previous to the end of the Civil War. That was a part of the Civil War, and it was a part of the reparation that happened in the aftermath of the Civil War. And I'm not talking about monetary reparations like people talk about today. I'm talking about the actual reparation that occurred then. What the 14th Amendment was not designed to do was to guarantee entry into these United States of America if you utilize a loophole within the system, thereby you get to a hospital. Maybe y'all know the concept of anchor babies. We've talked about that in the past. This is the idea that you are not guaranteed citizenship merely by your presence on American soil at the time that you give birth. And there ought to be some level of compromise solution on this, at very least, if not an out-and-out decision by the United States Supreme Court, that was not not the founding fathers, but that was not the framers' intention, those that framed the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. We'll dig into that as we are able. Also, Donald Trump, I take it back. There's another thing. Liberals are freaking out about more than two things. They're freaking out about everything, honestly. This idea, Donald Trump just basically fired all the DEI people in the federal government, which I absolutely love. You're fired, 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 you're fired. You're fired. Don't worry, DEI folks. It's my understanding that there are going to be some job openings in construction and food service here soon. So perhaps you can find some other arenas of employment. Maybe some career opportunities are opening themselves up as we speak. There are also plenty of bright blue states across the United States of America that are doubling down on these ridiculous dog and pony show type departments that are racist inherently, like DEI. At their bones, they have to be. Don't tell me they're not. They have to be. It's not about equality. It's about equity, and that's a socialist system. But Donald Trump's freaking people out about that, too. But we start today with an update on what happened yesterday at Antioch High School. At a briefing, Freddie O'Connell announced a new fund through the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee dedicated to addressing school violence incidents that occur on school grounds and during school events in Davidson County. He called it the Nashville School Violence Support and Healing Fund, collecting donations to fund Wednesday, with all proceeds going directly to the families of victims at the Antioch High School, as well as faculty and other students experiencing emotional trauma in the wake of the shooting. I have questions. I'm trying to be sensitive, but I have questions. So we're raising money, and if a student, so we've long had grief counselors that come into school systems in the aftermath of a situation like this, and I can't imagine it. I've never been in a room where someone was shot. I can only imagine the trauma and the shock. I can only imagine because I've never experienced it. Never want to. So I'm not here to begrudge someone that needs a certain level of counseling, grief or otherwise, with regard to the emotional trauma of what happened yesterday. It's another thing, and maybe I'm misreading this. I don't know. Give me a call, 615-737-9986. The Nashville School Violence Support and Healing Fund collected donations with all proceeds going directly to the families of victims. Okay, that's all right. I'm with you so far. As well as faculty and other students experiencing emotional trauma. So we're giving money to people who are in the cafeteria just because I mean, am I reading this correctly? Does this seem to make sense? There's more to the press conference that was held earlier today by the Nashville mayor, and we'll talk about it in a moment. I'll take your telephone calls all afternoon long, 615-737-9986. We will break down my effort. I have been trying, folks, to have someone sit down with me in my studio that's willing to present an argument against the Education Freedom Act. Governor Bill Lee was on promoting it. Scott Sepii will be on. He'll promote it. William Lamberth likes it. Cameron Sexton likes it. Jack Johnson likes it. All of these Republicans are all about the school choice. And you guys know that I have stated clearly anything that give parents more opportunity to direct their children to an educational opportunity that makes the best sense for their family, I'm in favor of. I'm trying to find somebody opposed to it. And I can't get anyone to come on the radio with me to offer an opposition. We invited, what was his name, Todd Warner on the show. And now I've invited another person, and they're considering it. So if anybody's got a defense that's against this thing that wants to offer a spirited argument against it, I'm not here to argue with you. I just want to hear it. So we'll discuss that today as well. It's 22 after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, just getting underway. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Grace Point Healthcare is a location that I want you to do some research on because Grace Point Healthcare, I found out about them. I heard about them on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I went down and met with the good people of Grace Point Healthcare, and now I'm excited to tell you about them, too. It's affordable, convenient, and comprehensive medicine. They are a direct pay primary care provider, meaning that all treatment decisions are made between you and the staff of Grace Point, not your insurance company. Whether you're paying by the visit or you enroll in the Smart Care plan, you always know you get exceptional care. You know the price that it costs you, and it's an affordable one as well. The Smart Care plan, for example, starts at, it's $69 a month for you. It includes all unlimited free office visits and free basic labs and diagnostic testing. At Grace Point, there's no long wait times either in the waiting rooms. At Grace Point, when you call to make an appointment, maybe you're feeling sick today, you don't have to wait for 2 weeks to go to the doctor. You can go same day, often next day, almost always. Grace Point Healthcare is modern medicine the old-fashioned way, and they're located in the heart of Franklin. Call to ask more about how they do their business. I absolutely love the way they do their business, and I think you will as well. 599-6868, 599-6868. Schedule your next appointment at Grace Point Healthcare.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Antioch High School shooting investigation update. President Trump firing off more executive orders. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family going to pay billions of dollars more to settle opioid litigation. These stories and more at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's currently 27, almost 28 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There's Ken Weaver. My name's Matt Murphy. Chris Weber back in the house. Up and running on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Super Talk TV is up and going. Thank you, those of you that decide to watch on a daily basis. I don't know why you would necessarily want to watch my ugly face. Now, Ken Weaver's got a good look to him. Chris Weber occasionally.
Well, the beard helps.
I mean, the beard looks great. Don't think I didn't hear what you said, too. When we get the studio redone, you promised to wear a ribbon in your beard in celebration.
No,
I heard it.
that was a joke.
I heard it.
Oh, he's backtracking now.
Oh, now he's
that was a joke.
he's my grandpa said, "Don't start crabbing on me now."
It'll be a Colonel Sanders ribbon.
With the long tassels hanging over it.
But we will take anything we can get. Captain Lou Albino, Colonel Sanders.
Oh, some rubber bands. Yeah, that would be
good.
nice.
That would be good. Just randomly placed in the beard. We got to do something to celebrate the big unveiling come Monday.
I hope it's not a letdown. We're building it up, aren't we?
We had a. I know
because we don't even know what it's going to look like.
Well, what we were told. I mean, I'm not here to pull the curtain back too much, but, what we were told is that, I mean, it's time for a refresh in the studio.
It's been a while.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And we've done what we can with some smoke, mirrors, spit, and polish to, kind of present as best we can for YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, for our television audience. Mm-hmm. But, it's time. And so the original plan, I think, the people that came in, the idea people, were like, well, let's just rip all this out and start again. And they were told by others that we can't remove this desk, at all.
All right.
And I'm not one to question the veracity of some of these statements, but I'm like, so the building would fall down if we ripped this stupid thing out?
It would not surprise me, actually.
Because it feels to me that for this room to be as effective as it wants to be, it can be, this desk is the central enemy.
Yeah. I'll say this. Whoever, and this is not anyone that works here now or probably ever, I don't know, but whoever designed that console was an idiot. That's the stupidest shape for that room. It makes no sense at all.
I mean, once again, if you lose that corner of the room, might as well not be there.
Yeah.
You lose a good, 30 square feet of room space.
Yeah.
Because of the positioning of the desk.
Yeah. We could put a buffet in there.
Well, we could.
That's a thought.
So who knows what's going to happen, but I'm crossing my fingers. I'm very excited.
Yeah. Sure.
And the question was asked by one of the three of us, Chris Weber, if this is actually going to be accomplished by the weekend, because they're doing it over the weekend.
Yep.
And Weber's like, is this going to be done by Monday morning? What's the backup plan?
That's something Brother Dan Mandis has to worry about.
That's what I said. I said, more to the point, is it going to be done by 3 o'clock Monday afternoon? I feel a lot safer in our time slot than I would if we were Dan Mandis.
That's true.
In Nashville's Morning News. One way or the other, we're very excited about it. We'll have a big celebration, and I'll bring in some ribbons for Ken. I don't know that I can tell you he's going to wear them, but I'll bring them in. It's time for the news on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in Nashville, Metro Police still have not established a motive for yesterday's deadly Antioch High School shooting, they say. But they say they have not established a connection between the shooter and the victims, too. As for the gun detection technology in the school, it didn't work, according to MNPS spokesman Sean Brasted.
Based on the shooter's location, in proximity to the cameras, and it wasn't close enough to get an accurate read and to activate that alarm. The system was activated by police when they brandished their weapons, so there's no foolproof solutions for any of this.
Metro Police say the 2 school resource officers assigned to Antioch High School were in another part of the building when the gunfire started. They rushed to the cafeteria and arrived just after Solomon Henderson, the suspect, the 17-year-old, killed himself. President Trump has declassified JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files, and his pick for defense secretary just cleared a key hurdle in the U.S. Senate.
The former Fox News host cleared the procedural hurdle with 51 votes in favor and 49 against. Two Republicans, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska and Susan Collins of Maine, joined Senate Democrats in voting no on Pete Hegseth's nomination. A final vote is still in store, but it appears Hegseth will have enough support to be narrowly confirmed.
Stephen Portnoy reporting. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler families have agreed to a new and bigger settlement to resolve mass opioid litigation. The Sacklers and Purdue boosting their financial contribution to $7.4 billion after the Supreme Court overturned a prior settlement.
Purdue Pharma is out of the opioids business, and Purdue Pharma really came to exist because of opioids, OxyContin in particular. But now it's out of that game. Members of the Sackler families can have nothing to do with opioids, and it's going to be a board of directors made up of the very same entities that sued Purdue Pharma to decide what the company should do next, but it's going to look a whole lot different than it was.
Aaron Katursky reporting, and the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, I'm seeing the eastbound South Loop really starting to back up as you get closer to 65. Then eastbound East Loop downtown, you've got brake tapping going all the way down to Bell Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
If you've been down Mount Juliet Road lately in Mount Juliet, you probably know the news. Maybe if you've listened to me for a time or two, you've probably heard the news. But for those of you who've not heard and you're looking for incredible European auto repair, I've got big news, and that is Eurofix is in Mount Juliet. For 26 years, Aaron Stokes has been building up his company, and let me tell you, folks, we've gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business grow and take off, and by word of mouth and by word of Murphy, you hear about them. Well, they now have their 5th location in MJ for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. You can get you a dipped cone and get your European car fixed all in one fell swoop. Eurofix can fix you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro location, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch that small-town mechanic growing from a barn in his backyard in a single-wide trailer, now growing to 5 separate locations, serving thousands of cars each month. Why? Because they do it the right way for the least amount of money possible. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Call 844-EUROFIX for more information, 844-EUROFIX, or go to myeurofix.com. Go visit them in Mount Juliet at Eurofix.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 338. Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Always open phone line, 615-737-9986. We do that early and often just to stimulate conversation. I absolutely love turning a monologue into a dialogue, or in some cases, a dialogue into a trialogue. Hell, a trialogue into I don't even know what the next thing would be called. One way or the other, 615-737-9986. You can also join us on the Super Text line. Always up and available on a variety of platforms, to include the radio station, of course, 99.7 FM, where most of you listen, from Alabama to Kentucky and all points in between. We're up on the apps, and we're up on Super Talk TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Come watch as I show off my locks for Trump in the waning days of this experiment. Several of you asking me what's going to happen. I don't really know yet. We're trying to figure out a charitable component. Several people reached out to me and said, hey, Murph, been growing my hair out too. I wouldn't mind cutting it if we could find someone. What I'm trying to find is like a barbershop that's willing to have an event out of their spot, and we'll promote them and highlight them. Ooh. But they're also willing to give, like, I don't know, 15% to a veterans charity or something like that.
That's a good. I bet there's plenty that would be willing to do that.
I would think so.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Give them out to the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project or Minnesota. I mean, I don't care where the charity goes, but, 15% of every cut goes to this, or 20% of every cut goes to this, and make a big event, and, do the show out there and listen to people get their hair cut. You never know what you hear at the barbershop.
Well, we couldn't air most of it, probably.
Well, that's true. That's true. A source familiar with the Metro Nashville Public Schools, this coming from the Tennessee Star, by the way, Leahy's outfit. A source familiar with the Metro Nashville Public Schools tells the Tennessee Star today that metal detectors were previously installed at Antioch High School sometime during the COVID-19 pandemic, but they were removed sometime prior to the January 22nd shooting that saw two dead, including the shooter, and two injured. So if you were out of pocket yesterday, a young man, we believe Ken, make sure that I have this right.
Okay.
It is Chief Drake told us yesterday that he retrieved the gun from somewhere in a bathroom.
Yes.
That it is believed he had placed at some point prior to the event.
I remember him saying that he thinks he retrieved the gun in the bathroom.
Okay.
And that they were looking into reports of him actually having a gun at school on a previous occasion.
Got it. So, as we said earlier, as we were talking about this at the beginning of the show, no one is suggesting that metal detectors would be the end-all, be-all. But I do have questions about why they were removed, because they can serve as a certain deterrent level for those, you have different classifications of violence, right, in society. You have crimes of passion that oftentimes involve romantic relationships. You have individuals that perhaps are not mature enough or ready enough to contain their emotions that get into altercations that lead to an escalation of violence, whether that be a fist fight or, sadly, a lot of times it turns into gunplay often on occasion. And that can spill over into the classroom as well, or into our school systems as well. We see it from time to time. But those people, I would not say they have a warped sense of authority. They don't seem to want to comport to the basic rules of civilized society. They don't have a lot of home training, as my grandfather would say. You ain't got no home training. You needed the belt back in the day. Maybe that would give you some home training. But those people aren't insane. And then you have a classification above that, in my opinion, where we're talking about individuals that are mentally corrupted in some way. I don't know that metal detectors are going to serve as a deterrent for those who have been mentally corrupted, whether it's mental insanity or corrupted in some other form or fashion. Just mentally poisoned with evil to the point that they've dedicated themselves on killing people. And you know what I'm talking about. Uvalde, Parkland, Sandy Hook are three easy and simple examples. Columbine. But I'm not convinced that that's what this was yet. And I am patient enough to try to get enough information. There are already conspiracy theories running around. There was already information that came out late in the day yesterday afternoon indicating that, according to this young man, this 17-year-old's writings on internet websites, that he was corrupted by social media influencers in such a way where he was anti-Jewish, and despite being African-American, that he was anti-black. We read some of that yesterday. I got to get to the bottom of all of it. And I think it's important that we hesitate, not necessarily opining on some of this stuff, but drawing conclusions based on information that may or may not be accurate or may not be in its proper context. But all of that said, I want to know from the Metro school system, and more specifically, I want to know from Adrienne Battle what her justification was in removing what might have served as somewhat of a deterrent to this event. Because in certain circumstances, it's not going to work. In certain circumstances, if someone is hell-bent on creating destruction, as we talked about yesterday, they'll walk up to the metal detectors, and whatever security personnel is there, they'll get shot first, and then on they go. Sadly, that is true. I don't want it to be true, but it is. But in other circumstances where someone's trying to show out, show off, someone's trying to hide a weapon, someone's trying to do something, this might serve as a certain level of deterrent. According to the source and according to the Tennessee Star, and Michael Patrick Leahy's normally very good about these things, the detectors were installed sometime around 2020, suggesting they could have been obtained by the Metro Nashville Police or the Metro Nashville Public School System using federal pandemic relief funding, but they were removed, and the reasoning behind the removing in subsequent years is unclear. Asked about the reported metal detectors, Metro Nashville Police Department spokesperson Don Aaron referred the Tennessee Star to the Wednesday afternoon press conference held outside the school, during which the Metro Nashville Police Department and their superintendent, Metro Nashville School Superintendent, Adrienne Battle, referenced such devices. When a reporter asked whether or not metal detectors were present at Antioch High School, the superintendent replied, quote, "While past research has shown they have had limitations and unintended consequences, we will continue to explore emerging technologies and strategies to strengthen school safety." Now, if we had access to Dr. Adrienne Battle, sadly, the general public in Davidson County doesn't get to talk to Dr. Battle, and we certainly don't, because God forbid we ask tough questions like the one that's about to follow. Tough question number one. What exactly, Dr. Battle, are those unintended consequences? Question number two. Is it true, Dr. Battle, that you recommended removing metal detectors because you did not like statistically the percentage of African-American students who were being flagged above and beyond all other students within the student body? Is that true or not, Dr. Battle? And if it is true, why did you see fit to remove the metal detectors as opposed to getting to the root cause of why there might be statistically and based on percentages more African Americans coming to school with weapons than other students of other ethnicities or backgrounds or races? Because that's what we're being told. That's what Matt Murphy's being told, is that she did not like the breakdown of people who were being pulled aside. And because she didn't like it, she put a stop to it. Now there's a kid dead. Would that kid still be dead if there were metal detectors? Maybe. I don't know. Hindsight's 20/20. I just think it's a hell of a way to run a railroad when you start getting information, when you have a system in place that at very least will give you feedback. Maybe it won't stop a school shooting, but at very least it will help you determine aspects of the problem that you face with regard to weapons within your school. And instead of addressing those problems, recognizing the patterns, and moving to try to solve some of the systemic issues that might exist, instead, you decide you don't like what you see and you're just going to ignore it. That is the ostrich effect. And it doesn't work. Well, if your goal is school safety, it doesn't work. If you don't really care about school safety and you're more concerned with what you see on a piece of paper, I don't know what you would do. According to Dr. Adrian Battle and the Tennessee Star, there was an attempt to confirm whether or not the school installed and later removed the metal detectors. Dr. Battle is not responding to any of these requests for information. During an earlier press conference, Don Aaron with the Metro Nashville Police Department said he could not definitively comment on the presence of the devices at the Antioch High School, but told reporters, "I did not see any metal detectors." The killer obviously has been identified. I choose not to say his name. I don't do all of that. It's not a hard and fast rule. You might hear it come out of my mouth on occasion, but I try not to. But I will say this. The young lady that was killed needlessly and senselessly, our hearts need to go out to her and her family. Her name is Jocelyn Correa Escalante. And there was another student injured in the gunfire prior to turning the gun on himself. The individual fired a number of shots. Fourth student was injured, not by gunfire, but in the subsequent melee that happened. Aaron did confirm that there were 2 school resource officers present at the school during the shooting, but said that they were not near the cafeteria when the school shooting took place. A couple of things. One, reports were here. If you have 2 SROs, I don't pretend to be an expert in this field, but why would you not make it a priority to have one of those SROs in the cafeteria while lunch is going on? I mean, what y'all that have school-age kids or you that have high school-age kids, in a school of 2,100 students, you're probably starting lunch at about 11 and finishing up probably about 1. I mean, you probably have a series of lunches that go on. You can't get everybody in the cafeteria at once. And so it's not like it's an all-day deal. Would it not be standard operating procedure that a school resource officer is where people gather? Because that's sure as hell where it seems the shooters go. So that's question number 1 for me. What is our operating procedure with regard to our SROs and our school systems? Why wouldn't they be in the cafeteria? Number 2, we're also hearing information about the reaction from the faculty in the aftermath of the shooting. Once again, I've not been through a real-life shooting scenario. I've been through a lot of training with Brink Fiddler and others, but I've never been through this, and I don't pretend that I have. But I do know that the idea of repetition within training is to ingrain it in you what you need to do and what your priorities are in the event of something happening like this. And what we were told from yesterday, and we spoke to an individual that went into the school system. I have sources that were utilized to clear the school, okay? And I'm not going to say so much as to reveal my sources, but to say this, apparently it was all over the map how the teachers reacted. There needs to be some uniformity in training for these teachers within the system to prevent the next event. Unless all of this is performative on the part of Dr. Adrian Battle. I'll let y'all be the judge of that. It's 51 after the hour. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Want to look better and feel better about yourself? 2025 can be the year your hair grows fuller and thicker. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. I went to We Grow Hair, and I asked about my hair growth and my hair loss, and I got the laser treatment. I want to tell you about it. It was the biggest confidence booster. You can do this, too, if you call them right now at 615-376-6010. We Grow Hair, located right here in Nashville for almost 30 years now. They have proven solutions that work no matter what level of hair loss you find yourself at. No matter what, they can grow your hair. They have the ARTIST robotic FUE procedure, the We Grow Hair high-density hair transplant procedure that gives you 2 times more hair in one procedure than any other in town. Plus, they have the fast 45-minute laser treatment that I received, and it's backed by the only company that I help trust with my thinning hair, and you can trust it as well. We Grow Hair. Call today at 615-376-6010. That's 376-6010, or go to We Grow Hair right now. WeGrowHair.com online for We Grow Hair.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Antioch High School shooting investigation update. President Trump riling everyone up in our nation's capital with executive orders today. We'll tell you about it at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, I got big news, everybody. Big news. Whatever Ken's got to tell you pales in comparison to what I'm about to say.
Let's hear it.
Matt Murphy, I'm judging a chili contest in about a week and a half. How about that?
That could be either really good or really bad.
Whoever you want in, based on what you've dealt with the last couple of
I
days.
think I will pass. Thank you.
I just got an update on the old chili con. This is the annual Redheaded Stranger got me involved in this.
Oh, I've been to this one before.
The Rudder.
Yes.
The chili cook-off.
That's quite an event, man.
That's what I hear. A chili cook-off and Bloody Mary competition.
Yes, sir.
And yours truly will be a part of the judging of the chilies. So I'm quite excited about that. I love a good chili.
Sounds like you might need some pink fluid out of a bottle afterward.
Maybe. You never know. I'm not a big burn your lips off guy, but I mean I can handle the heat. But
yes, sir.
Yeah,
you know,
I think most of these are fairly tame because they want people to enjoy.
That's right.
Yeah,
I mean for all palates, not just for those folks that have to put the ice cream in at the end to make sure you got a cooling sensation on the way out. I get that.
That'd be fun.
It should be fun. That's that's February 1st, not Saturday, but next Saturday. Very excited about that. I'm excited about the news as well. Scott Spicky's going to stop by, talk to us about education in the state of Tennessee, talk to us about his cell phone legislation and whether the events of Antioch affected that, amongst other things. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Plus, I've got some top secret information about this kid at Antioch High School that I'll deliver next. Super Talk.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now in Nashville, Metro Police say they still have not established a motive for yesterday's deadly Antioch High School shooting. However, several media outlets have reviewed pages of what are purported to be writings from the shooter that include plans for committing shootings at school and a desire to hurt people. Police say they have not established a connection between the shooter and the victims. And as for the gun detection technology at Antioch High School, The school district says it did not work. Another question was brought up by House Education Subcommittee Chair Scott Sepii on WTN's Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis. He believes there's a mental health component that needs to be addressed.
These individuals, they have crossed a line mentally that they are willing to shoot another individual, and we've got to try to get them as much help as we can ahead of time, and being able to look for the signals and get people trained to look for the signals of someone who's in distress.
Yeah, so Representative Sepii says the legislature will be looking into whether school districts are using resources allotted by the legislature, including $200 million for mental health intervention when an individual has been identified as having a crisis. Right now in our nation's capital, President Trump reacted to a federal judge blocking his birthright citizenship rollback.
Obviously, we'll appeal it. They put it before a certain judge in Seattle, I guess, right? And there's no surprises with that judge.
Yeah, it was a Reagan-appointed judge saying Trump's order is blatantly unconstitutional. He asked whether lawyers were present when the order was being written. Pete Hegseth, closer to being confirmed as defense secretary, the U.S. Senate voted 51-49 today to move it to a final vote later this week, with two Republicans, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, voting with all 47 Democrats to try to block Hegseth. President Trump taking unprecedented action, aiming to reshape the federal government, including ending federal DEI programs and initiatives and putting all employees there on paid administrative leave. In remarks to the World Economic Forum in Switzerland, Trump also signaling the federal government will look at the private sector and its hiring practices.
President Trump touted the executive order he signed earlier this week ending diversity, equity, inclusion mandates, policies, and programs in the federal government. His executive action also ended affirmative action policies from the Lyndon B. Johnson administration in the 1960s that required federal contractors take affirmative action to ensure non-discrimination. Trump's executive action also encouraged the private sector to end what the White House calls illegal DEI discrimination and preferences.
These are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector.
Karen Travers reporting there. And the latest news, traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Southside crash, I-40 eastbound at Fessler's Lane. We have 440 westbound, the on-ramp from westbound I-24 partially blocked by a crash. And in Brentwood, the right shoulder blocked by a crash at 65 northbound and Concord Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, a weekly visit with Representative Scott Sepii is forthcoming after I say hello. Welcome back. Hour number 2 starts right now, 4:06, almost 4:07. Governor Bill Lee was on Dan Mandis's Nashville's Morning News this morning. You know, we had Governor Lee on last week, had a great conversation with him about the Education Freedom Act. We'll talk with Scott Sepii about that as well. Governor Bill Lee had a few things to say about Penny Schwinn this morning. And I was frankly, and I'll tell you, I'll give you the heads up, Weber. I want to queue up that Penny Schwinn question and answer because I want to play it for Sepii. And I'm not trying to pit anybody against anybody. I'm just curious. I know I'm not doing it. There you go.
Sure you are.
I am not.
Sure
he had nice things to say about Penny Schwinn, and I don't know. I don't know. This was before my time.
She's a nice person.
Well,
she's a good mom.
You probably know her better than a lot. You are the one that brought me the new is it Commissioner of Education? Is that
Lizette Reynolds?
Lizette Reynolds, who seems to be doing a good job. Is she doing a good job?
Yes, sir.
Is she doing a better job than Penny Schwinn? In your opinion, one man's opinion?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, look, good people can have differences of opinion on this matter. But once again, we'll get into that a little bit down the road. We'll also talk birthright citizenship, some of the actions of Donald Trump. Yes, it was expected that this was going to be objected by some court somewhere. The expectation is this is moving up the Supreme Court ladder, and we'll eventually get to the United States Supreme Court to make the ultimate decision. Tom Homan is on top of deportations. That is also in the special session that is coming up this Monday, the 27th day of January. Very excited to have Scott Sepii in studio to talk about all of these things and more. Representative, how's it going, my friend?
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to next week to start to put parents in charge of their education.
I want to start here because, I mean, it's on my mind, and you and I were talking about it just before we came on. Antioch High School, obviously awful. I mean, just general thoughts on yesterday and what you can do as a representative and as a, just a citizen of the state of Tennessee and as a parent to help in this regard.
Well, first of all, we all know it was a tragedy. Second of all, you have to understand that we are dealing with people that has crossed over a line of mental capacity. They are doing things that are totally irrational. So whenever you try to legislate to that, it's extremely difficult because you're trying to think in someone who's not thinking rational anymore. All of the experts have told us, Matt, that the thing you have to do, especially for schools, is you've got to keep these people on the outside. You've got to make it so it's extremely difficult for them to get in. I'll give you the Covenant shooter, for example. She pulled on the door was locked, so what'd she do? She shot the glass out. Therefore, we passed a bill about bullet-resistant film, that the bullets would go through, but the glass would still maintain the integrity, keeping on the outside.
I've seen some of that film in action, and it's incredible.
It is.
The technology that's available.
Metal detectors, right? Cameras, locks, double locks, where even if you get into the school, you're in like a atrium that you still have to go through another set of doors that go through the main office to get into the main hallways. One of the things we did was 2 years ago we passed a bunch of things. The school resource officer bill that put a paid SRO from the state in every public and private school. Second thing we did was the school safety grants. Let's look at our schools and let's see what shortcomings they have in regards to safety and maintain that safety in our schools. The third thing we passed that nobody's really talking about is the Homeland Securities for the state. Each county got their own state Homeland Security officer that was supposed to coordinate between state and local authorities, but one of their priorities was to do school safety assessments on every school in their county. Give those recommendations to the school board, to the superintendents, and then take those and give them to the state so we knew how much money we would be sending to Metro Nashville, Murray County, Wayne County for those improvements, and then get those improvements done. In Murray County, our school system has purchased metal detectors and portable ones, so they can move them around to different schools unannounced. Better cameras, security locks with swipe cards, right? And then at our private school, Columbia Academy, they just put in automated gates so that you just can't drive on campus now. You have to be buzzed onto campus.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I want to see. What was the recommendation and what was the follow-through by the district to make sure that we are meeting the needs of that school, first of all?
I mean, I understand some of the aspects of what you just talked about would prevent some of this, but it also bears repeating the statistic that I learned yesterday from Brink Fiddler, and that was over 80% of those that commit these types of acts are insiders within the system. In other words, they are considered to have belonged there.
Correct.
The ones that we hear most about, obviously, are outsiders, Parkland, Sandy Hook, Uvalde, and ultimately Covenant. But sadly, most of these incidents happen from the inside out. Now, we need to get the rest of the details. We need to know how he got the gun onto the property, exactly at what point. And I want to know, and I think it's important that we find out all of this information, put it all on the table, and then figure out exactly, piece it together like a puzzle. Dr. Adrian Battle had access to metal detectors, we're told, at Antioch. At some point along the way, they stopped using them. Why that was it a justifiable reason? What would be the justifiable reason? I think all of those things should be on the table in trying to dissect this situation.
And I agree with you. Before we come up with solutions or pass judgment, we have to have all the details, all the information, what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and then start to make an educated decision of, okay, in the future, how can we use that information to hopefully prevent this situation from coming somewhere else?
This is the information that I'm getting, and I'm getting it from a source, and obviously I'm not going to give up my source, but I am confident enough in this source that I'm relating this information to you. This is maybe the first time you're hearing it, I don't know. But apparently this 17-year-old pulled a box cutter on a student at school last year.
Okay.
So this opens up an entirely different Pandora's box as to if that is true, and if we get details on that, what was the punishment level, and at what point do we need to look at being a little more strict in terms of expulsion or removal from the general population within the school setting, some sort of alternative setting with discipline problems that could escalate in the fashion that this did. If these two things are true, I mean, it's an example. I understand hindsight's 20/20. We can't see everything, but
Well, according to code right now, TCA code annotated, under school discipline, if you pull a weapon in school, now a box cutter would classify as a weapon. If that's verified by the district, that is a expulsion for 1 year right off the top. So that's where you got to go back and start looking at this. And I've heard that there's maybe some telltale signs of some mental health issues that may have surfaced that, okay, well, one of the things we provided, Matt, was training for teachers, right? Not to be mental health experts, but to look for the telltale signs of a student that's in distress, a student that's going through some mental issues, to maybe address it on the front end so that it doesn't evolve into a shooting like we saw at Covenant with the telltale signs of someone reaching out for help.
All right, so let's tilt to some of the aspects of what you're planning on doing in the General Assembly. I thought of you in after thinking of the family members, after trying to dissect the breaking nature of the news yesterday. I thought about your effort to get more focus on classroom instruction. And in that effort, you are introducing, I think it's your bill, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you're introducing a bill that would, well, you described it, your cell phone package. Talk to me.
It's a very simple bill. What it does is it creates a minimum standard that says during instructional time, a school district has to have a policy that during instructional times, the students cannot have their cell phones in their possession. I'm sorry about that. It's been a long day already.
No, I get it.
And it gives the local school systems the ability to craft their own policy, adhering to state law. They can be stricter than that or not, or just the bare minimum. But what it also affords to is during a crisis, students have to have access to their phones. And so the question is, how do they do that? It's a very simple process. Most schools do it, or not most, some schools do it, where when the kids walk in, they turn their phones off and they put them in a little pouch that's on the back of the door. That's it. They're just sitting there. If the teacher says, hey, we need your phones for this X, Y, or Z in education, go get your phones. They get them on, they turn them on, and the teacher uses them. Other than that, they're in those pouches in the classroom that if a crisis emerges, they can get access to them. Now, when you talk to the experts like Brent, right, the first thing is don't run to your phone. Listen to your teacher. Do what your teacher says. They may say, hey, get in this corner and stay over here, right? Let's get through the crisis, and then we'll let you get your phones and talk to your mom and dad if you have to say you're okay. But this crisis should not affect this bill.
So the phones will not be somewhere else.
That's correct.
They will be in the vicinity of the student. And in some cases, I would imagine some school districts, and I don't want to diminish the efficacy of the bill, but I mean, some systems that don't see this as much of a problem might say, look, you just have to have it in your backpack. You have to have it away from you. You can't have it in your hand or in your pocket. You just have to have it away from you. Yep. Others might go to the extra length if it continues to be a problem to separate a little further, but it would still be in the room.
That's correct. And there's also, I just got this email today, it's very, very timely, that there's an app out there that you can scan on your phone that the schools can turn it off and turn it on as they go in instructional time. So when the bells ring in their instructional time, they can shut the phones off. They can be in their pocket, they can look at them, but shut off.
I get everything you're saying, but you also understand the emotions of yesterday
Absolutely.
Are going to play into this legislation.
And that's why we have the ability that during an emergency, the students can access their phones.
All right, so I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a short time out a little early, which is odd for me. And when we come back, we'll find out from Sepii what he thinks where he thinks the House is with regard to the whip counts on the votes with regard to the Education Freedom Act. If you have any questions, and by the way, I'm trying to get people who are against this thing on the show, and I know Scott's aware of this. Scott laid it out and said, I'll talk to anybody at any time,
sure.
Whether they're pro or con. I spoke to a woman today. She will go unnamed because she's still considering whether she wants to come on the show or not. And I don't know why. I don't know what sort of consideration that there would be, but she's anti this bill. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to get anybody that's anti this bill to come on and explain their objections, to include Representative Todd Warner, who won't call me back either. 18 after the hour, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy here for Nashville Safe House. Did you know that all gun safes at Nashville Safe House are sales tax free? They are sales tax free for good reason, because we want to encourage you to buy a gun safe to better protect yourself, to better protect your family, but to keep those guns safe and sound when you're not around, right? And to keep them safe from not just theft, and obviously theft's an issue, but fire as well. What a great time in the new year to buy a safe from Nashville Safe House, because they got rebates. They got all kind of safes on the showroom floor. They got Browning, they got Fort Knox, they got Champion, they got Rhino, they got Superior, every brand name, every make, every model. They have more safes than any other location in the United States of America. And if I'm wrong, you tell me, because I'm not wrong. Nashville Safe House has over 400 in their warehouse and over 200 right on the showroom floor. Plus, they got storm shelters. Plus, they got vault doors. Plus, they have biometrics. It's what they do at Nashville Safe House. So go by and make me their salesperson of the year for 2025. I want to beat out, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris beat me out last year. I want to be sales guy of the year in 2025. So tell them I sent you to Nashville Safe House on 4th Avenue South, across the street from City Cemetery.
New details about the deadly Antioch High School shooting investigation and President Trump riling everybody up with his executive orders. We'll tell you about them at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WT in a few more minutes with Scott Sepii answering your questions on the issue of the Education Freedom Act. Now, we went away from it for a number of days, have not talked about it this week, but the time is nigh to get these discussions happening regarding pros and cons on the Education Freedom Act. Special session is coming up this Monday. We've got immigration on the docket for special. We have, what's the other thing?
Disaster relief.
Disaster relief for East Tennessee. And then, of course, the biggie, the Education Freedom Act.
It's education, man. Everybody loves education.
And there's so many questions, and you and I were talking off air, Scott, and I know you join me in this. I want to talk to the people that have objections because I think most of the objections on this, look, if you don't want to spend any more money in education, then okay, fine. Well, then you're probably against this because this does spend an additional $140 million on a specific program to provide scholarships for 20,000 families to get them in a better educational opportunity. So, I suppose that's a legit objection. But most of the objections that I hear are born out of misinformation. Would you not agree with that?
That's 100% accurate. 100% accurate. I spend most of my time on the phone with people across Tennessee, and their arguments to me are things that aren't even in the bill. They're things that they heard online from, I think you call them your keyboard warriors or something.
Yeah, the purity keyboard warriors.
And it's an issue. I'm a policy guy, Matt. I try to craft good, sound policy for the people of Tennessee. This is probably, and I'm going to brag on the governor here and leaders, this is probably the best school choice bill that's ever been created in the country because we've been able to look, armchair quarterback, right, at other states that have done things that have been highly successful and have caused a lot of problems, and we've put those safeguards in place in this bill to make sure that we are driving this thing forward without interfering with our private schools, respecting the wishes of our homeschoolers being taken out, putting caps on growth, making sure that it has to be funded by the General Assembly. So we're the ones that have to agree that, hey, this is headed in the right direction, we're going to fund it, provide opportunities for those with low-income numbers to go first, and then opening up to the whole state of Tennessee.
One of the people that I have spoken with, and as I reach out, I've reached out to Brandon Lewis, who is he runs a conservative podcast blog website down in Chattanooga, I guess, near Chattanooga.
That's correct.
I invited him on the show this week. He said he couldn't do it. I've invited Tiffany Boyd. I spoke to her today. She is a fairly well-known advocate.
Know her.
You probably know her as well. Isn't she in Murray County?
She's in Murray County.
And she's considering coming on the show. And I just want – I don't even want to debate. I just want them to present their position why this is a bad thing. What I hear more than anything when I talk to these folks is this is a nefarious way for you guys – to get your meat hooks into private schools.
No, that's not true. There's a particular section of the bill that delineates stripping away our ability to do anything with private schools, looking into their curriculum, their textbooks, their religion, anything like that, making sure that we keep their autonomy so that our private schools, one, will be encouraged to go and help these students, and number two, to continue on with the great work that they're doing for all of their students across Tennessee. Here's a great argument I keep hearing from people all the time on the other side of this, is that, well, the private schools are just going to raise their tuition across the board. I said, no, they're not, because they may take 4 or 5 students, but that private school might have 2,000 students in it.
The rest of the parents who are paying tuition cost are not going to put up with an increase in tuition based on the monies that they're going to get for, even if it's 10 students.
And most of those boards of directors, you know who they're made up of? Parents that are paying for tuition.
Yeah, I think the competitive forces will kick in, and I don't think the parents. I do not think the general population of the school system would put up with a $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 increase in tuition across the board.
That's correct.
Because you're going to get 5 or 10 scholarships as a result.
That's correct. And so, you're going to hear that it doesn't work in this state, it doesn't work in that state. And so one of the things we've done is we've looked at those states. For instance, Arizona had a problem with this thing ballooning up out of control. We've put safeguards in place in Tennessee. If you look at the state of Iowa, since they've done this, they've climbed up the educational rankings, not in private schools, Matt, but in public schools. The educational statistical rankings of Iowa is now in the top 15 in the country. So why are we going to want to languish in the late 30s, right, 38th, 39th, when we can do things that will drive the educational outcomes forward? And here's the best part, Matt. We're going to hold our public schools harmless, which means they're going to receive the same amount of money that they received the previous year, potentially for less students, which would mean now they can have smaller class sizes, which what we've heard in public schools, give us smaller class sizes will get you better results. We're able to do that test right now also.
Patrick writes in and says, please stop saying you're respecting the wishes of homeschoolers. It's very disingenuous and misleading to state that we wanted to be left out. Okay. You need to at least quantify or qualify that by stating that the organizations you spoke with wanted to be left out. Many homeschool families I speak with wanted to be involved in the bill.
Yeah, we have a bill.
Okay, he's showing it on Talk TV.
There's your bill.
You're watching.
Is it on there for you?
Yeah.
We have a bill from the Tennessee Homeschool Association that represents a bunch of different organizations of homeschoolers that have given us a letter to ask us to please do not include the homeschoolers in this bill because they are worried that their autonomy could be jeopardized if they start taking state money. Understood. We heard you, and so we wrote the homeschoolers out.
And Matt, ask him his thoughts on Trump nominating the Penny Schwinn. And so we have Governor Bill. I tell you what I'll do. I want to get to the news, and you can stick around for one more. So and once again, look, good people can disagree on these things. We don't have to, just because we disagree on something doesn't mean that we necessarily disagree. But I'm curious your experience with Penny Schwinn as a commissioner of education.
I work with her on a different level than the governor does.
Right. So
I'll have a different perspective.
I was a little bit surprised. I like the governor a lot. You guys know that. I was a little surprised at his response to the question from Dan Mandis this morning. We'll get to that question, the response, and talk to Scott about it next on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes and new details about the deadly Antioch High School shooting investigation. Here's Channel 4's Jordan James.
Tell us that Solomon Henderson was dropped off by his mother at the school. Initially, they thought he rode the bus here. Following that, the 17-year-old made his way into the bathroom to post on social media. At some point, Henderson allegedly made his way to the cafeteria, where investigators say that he fired 10 shots less than 17 seconds, resulting in a 16-year-old girl dying along with himself. During the gunfire, another student was grazed. Investigators say that Henderson was found with a loaded gun. Officers also searched his home. We were there yesterday when that took place, and they say no other weapons were found. Now, Metro Police say they have found out that the gun that he was in possession of was purchased by someone in Arizona back in 2022, but was not reported as being stolen. As a result, they're working with the ATF and the FBI to learn more about its origins.
As for motive, Metro Police say they've confirmed disturbing writings posted online are from the shooter. 2 documents. One is 51 pages in length, the other 288. President Trump. White House correspondent Karen Travers says a federal judge in Seattle blocking that executive order on birthright citizenship, saying it appears to violate the 14th Amendment, which says that somebody born in the U.S. is a U.S. citizen.
President Trump said this isn't over with this temporary restraining order.
No, obviously we'll appeal it. They put it before a certain judge in Seattle, I guess, right? And there's no surprises with that judge.
That federal judge was appointed by President Ronald Reagan. This ruling was the first legal test of President Trump's executive order reinterpreting the 14th Amendment's guarantee of birthright citizenship. The president faces at least 5 separate lawsuits over the policy.
And Pete Hegseth, closer to being confirmed as defense secretary, the Senate voting 51-49 today to move it to a final vote later this week. 2 Republicans, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, voting with all 47 Democrats to try to block Hegseth. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Yeah, northbound 65 is particularly heavy as you're trying to get up there to the 24 split. Also, south of downtown, 65 northbound, you're going to be bumper to bumper once you access eastbound 440. And then the same goes as you're trying to get eastbound on the South Loop. 24 eastbound, you've got that brake tapping underway all the way to Bell Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So you hear about the slightly warmer conditions, and that's good news for those of you that have experienced heating issues, but it's also a good time for you to go ahead and make the call that others have made to Efficient Heating and Cooling. I like to say, because it rhymes, if your heater's not ready, call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. And it's true, right? Jeff Eddy's going to come out, diagnose the issue. Now, if it's a strict maintenance call, if he's just trying to make sure everything's running as it should, it will never cost you over $125. No matter your residence, no matter how many units that you have on a residential call, that's the cap. It's oftentimes much less than that, by the way. But secondarily, Jeff can identify issues that exist in the system. He can extend the life of the system. He's going to recommend that you replace it only if he has exhausted every other option. I trust him to do that, and you can as well. When it comes time, they're an Elite Pro partner with Ream, and he can recommend the right unit for you. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, give him a call today. The website is efficienthvac.net, efficienthvac.net, or call 615-784-4424, 784-4424 for our friends at Efficient Heating and Cooling. Man, oh man, Scott Sepii and I were just talking off air. He's with us for one more segment. And if you have any questions, if you have any opposition to this, please, I am begging you. I am committed to presenting the loyal opposition to the Education Freedom Act. And I know Scott's in favor of it. Scott's a champion of this thing, and he will be in favor of it as the special session begins. I'm predisposed to be in favor of it, too. I want to read the direct language of the bill. I mean, they're still tweaking it, right? Is that fair? Or
there's the potential for some cleanup amendment coming up It's not going to major change the bill, but it's going to clarify a couple things.
Okay. But anybody with that takes exception, anybody that is out and out against it, you're welcome to state your reasons to be against it. But you just mentioned something, and you squirreled me. Were you down in Mobile? Have you ever been to Mobile?
Mm-hmm.
They don't get snow a lot down there.
The USS Alabama has snow on it.
Oh man, and all the palm trees down there with snow on them, and they closed I-10, Scott.
Well, you know the saying. Can I say it on the air? H-E?
You can say yes.
Okay, so the old saying is, when hell freezes over, when there's snow on the beach in Pensacola.
Oh, that's something.
And it wasn't a flurry.
They had like 6-7 inches.
Can you believe that? And we didn't get any.
That's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, the moisture from the Gulf, and it's cold enough, and
global warming
circumstances. It's got to be global
warming.
Jim is next in Murfreesboro with a question for Scott Sepii. Hello, Jim.
Hello there. How you doing?
Good.
Got a question. How many students do we have in Tennessee?
How many shootings?
Students.
Oh, students.
Sorry. In public school, sir?
Yes.
900. Let me get this right. 996.
That's okay.
Almost a million.
Almost a million.
Okay.
Talking about 20,000 that we're going to offer this. One, are you going to be able to facilitate that for 12 years for everybody?
Yes, sir.
You will. Okay. And then how do the others get on it if they want to get on it?
So what we do is if we have over 75% of the spots are applied for, the system will automatically bump 5,000 a year. However, it's still subject to the General Assembly making sure we have enough money to fund those extra 5,000 spots.
Yeah, well, you're quite a ways off. If you take half, of 900,000 is 450,000, and you're only looking at bumping it 5,000 a year. It's going to take forever for anybody to say that they're going to be on it. You're going to vote for it, but a lot of the people are not going to be eligible for it.
Well, what we're hoping, sir, is we get some fantastic results. That there's a groundswell from the people of Tennessee saying, hey, we need this expanded exponentially so that more people can take advantage of it. I think being cautious at first keeps us away from what happened in Arizona where it balloons up to $1 billion, and we have these little Matt Murphy pop-up schools all over Tennessee saying, hey, I'll educate kids. No, we want quality, not quantity right now.
Right. Okay, I agree. Yeah, I was just wondering, it seems like a ways off, and maybe the public schools will get better by the time some of this takes place.
Well, we will keep working on the public schools.
And certainly the part of the idea. Thank you for the question, Jim. I appreciate that. Let's go to Ray next up in Silver Point. Hello, Ray. You got a question for Scott?
Hey, Matt. I sure do. I, for the most part, do favor and want the choice in education.
Mm-hmm.
But leaving out individual homeschoolers, it sounds to me like a huge homeschool organization has twisted your all's hands or something, and keeping those individuals, they should be able to utilize it also. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and I know my kids would love to be able to put theirs and use it for their homeschool kids. I just think that is a mistake. Don't let the big homeschool organization cause the little people to not be able to use it. I just think that's a huge mistake. So,
well, thank you, Ray, and let's. I appreciate the call, and let's let Scott. I like how Ray said big homeschool. It's like big oil, big tobacco, big home. Don't let big homeschool push you around, Sepii.
Well, this is the thing that we try to do. Is I can't have a conversation with every homeschooler in the state of Tennessee. What we have to trust is that the Tennessee Home Education Association, made up of different associations across the whole state of Tennessee, that they pool their members and say, hey, what do you think on this? And then they give us a letter in response to the majority of the people that they represent. Now, I'm with you. We've gotten phone calls on this station about homeschoolers saying, I want to take part.
Mm-hmm.
What I would urge you to do very quickly here, because we're up against it, is call your homeschool association and tell them, hey, we want to reverse this. We want to be written in. And if they'll send us a letter that says, hey, homeschoolers want to be written in as a whole, then I'm sure we'll change the bill.
Well, there you go. That's the charge for those of you that are concerned about homeschoolers being left out. But just to reiterate, and we get this probably of late, I mean, more than anything, homeschoolers are only excluded because the organizations that represent the homeschoolers in front of the General Assembly have said, we want to be excluded.
Based off of the decisions that have been made by their local districts.
There you go. All right, so 42 after the hour. Let me see if there's any other questions. I want to share this comment that the governor made earlier today and get your thoughts on it. Why are homeschoolers not given the opportunity for the scholarships? The why behind their decision-making wasn't yours but theirs, was simply that they were fearful that it would create a level of control that they weren't comfortable with?
Yeah, the homeschoolers have a huge degree of autonomy, and they want to maintain that autonomy. I want to make sure we protect that for them, and what they were worried about is if we start taking money, then the strings are going to come with it, and so we just decided to write. They wanted to be written out, so we wrote them out.
Roughly just under 1 million people in public school. Do you know off the top of your head roughly how many are in private?
Roughly about 150,000.
Okay. So about a little over 10%, 20%, I mean, not less than 20% of the total public school population. And I would note that, and because this question came up, of the 20,000 scholarships, the first 10,000 are a needs-based. There's a needs-based analysis, right?
Income $170,000 for a family of 4 or less.
And then after that, it opens up
everybody.
And
unless they have more applications than spots available, and then some income qualifications still fall in there.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So this was an interesting exchange between Dan Mandis on Nashville's Morning News and the governor. You have experience more so than I do. Penny Schwinn was kind of outgoing when I was incoming into the to get knowledgeable and up to speed about Tennessee educational opportunities across the state. So I just want to play with you for you an exchange between Dan and the governor. Once again, I'm not asking you to, I'm not trying to pit you against the governor. I'm just curious your analysis based on what the governor said. Dan asked the governor about Penny Schwinn, the former commissioner of education.
Penny Schwinn. She has been named Deputy Secretary of Education within the Trump administration. She resigned from your administration in 2023. There were some reports that she complained about the culture wars interfering with education and so forth. I'm curious to know if you had recommended Penny Schwinn to President Trump.
Well, first of all, I think President Trump's pretty good at picking out cabinet members, and I've been really pleased with his appointees, and I hope they all make it through Congress. And he interviewed with Penny himself, and he found out what I found out, which is she's brilliant education mind. She's a conservative to her core, and she understands that the Department of Education federally needs to be in large part dismantled and pushed out to the states. She believes in that. She's always believed in that. We talked about it years ago. President Trump now knows what I know, which is she's going to be great for this country. And so, yeah, they reached out to me. I didn't make the recommendation initially, but once she was a front runner for that position, they reached out to me and asked my opinion, and I gave them a recommendation.
All right, so there's the governor. Let me ask you this question. Had Donald Trump reached out to Scott Sepii and asked Scott Sepii if he would offer a recommendation for Penny Schwinn, would he have gotten a recommendation?
No.
Tell me why.
I dealt with Commissioner Schwinn. Well, I should say not I. We have dealt with Commissioner Schwinn on the General Assembly dealing in policy matters, right? We did not believe at the beginning, and I'll give you a great example. Bill Dunn used to serve in the General Assembly. Bill Dunn was a great advocate for schools, public schools, but he understood the process of how Tennessee works. Commissioner Schwinn came from Texas. She served over there in that legislature, which is totally opposite to the way we work. We are in twice a term. They're in once a term.
Mm-hmm.
The department over there has a lot more say in the way things work in Texas government, where over here the General Assembly has a bigger say on how government works in Tennessee. When Commissioner Schwinn first came over, she was operating a lot under the auspice of how Texas worked, and we had to explain to her that that's not how things work in Tennessee. Things need to be run. A program needs to be run through the General Assembly to get our support and make sure it meets the values of the people of Tennessee. She had a couple programs that I was very vocal against. One of them was the well-being child checks during COVID, that they were going to send people representing the state through the Department of Health and the Department of Education to make sure the health needs and the educational needs were going to be met in people's homes and be knocking on people's doors. And that was an unequivocal, no, you're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's video of that, of us having, and myself having discussions with that in committee about, no, we're not doing that in Tennessee. I think if her job is to dismantle the Federal Department of Education, yeah, she's going to follow the lead of President Trump, and it's going to get dismantled ASAP. I hope President Trump follows through. He's been spot on with things he said he's going to do so far, and we can both attest to that. But if the job is to dismantle the Federal Department of Education, yes, she has the credentials to be able to dismantle the Federal Department of Education.
Let me get to at least one more, maybe two more before I have to say goodbye. Let's go to Jerry on line 2 in Murfreesboro. Hello, Jerry. You have a question for Scott Sepii.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. To me, it just seems like we're just shuffling money around when, in my opinion, I think part of the big problem is, and like kind of what you just talked about, is getting the federal government out of the schools. But what about the unions? Growing up, I mean, I'm a firm believer you make the best of what you can with the school that you have. And a lot of the problem is, the schools themselves, the teacher unions, things like that. So why not fixing the root of the problem instead of just transferring money around?
Well, that's a great question. We have, over the last couple of years, we have done things to diminish the influence that the unions have over education. We have prohibited them from collecting their dues through the school system, which has weakened their ability to recruit people and keep people as union members. My dad worked for Anheuser-Busch for 37 years. He was a member of the Teamsters. He told me a long time ago that when he was having to stack half barrels 3 high in the back of trucks in 140-degree weather in St. Louis, the union had a purpose, right, to give workers better working conditions and work for better pay. When unions are all about power and all about control, I don't know if that's what the unions were originally created for. I think they were there to represent the working man and woman, to make sure that they get better working environments and better pay.
One more from Steve and Dan, it says, out of Huntland. Steve and Dan, good afternoon.
What's up?
What's happening?
Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Hey, guys.
Yeah, I was I'm sorry, I can't say your last name.
Sepii.
Okay.
Close enough. I've been called worse on the football field.
Yes, sir. Anyway, on this school voucher, they get $7,000. Does that mean if they want to go to a private school, say the tuition is $12,000 or $15,000, where does the other money come from?
That is a $1 million question that I've been asked a lot. And I'm glad you asked it. So let's do easy math here. Let's say the tuition is $11,000 a year. The student's going to get $7,000. That leaves $4,000. Private schools have financial aid themselves, so that those parents can apply for financial aid. Some of them are up to 70% of abatement. But let's say it's 50%, right? So now you've got $7,000 there, $11,000, $4,000 left over. They can apply for financial aid, and let's say they get in and they get half that tuition. They can attend a private school for $2,000 a year. That is the decision that the parents get to make. Do we want to spend our money of $2,000? Now, here's what I'm going to give you, Matt. The ESA voucher program we now have over 3,700 kids between Chattanooga, Nashville, and Memphis that are taking advantage of, and they are able to get into private schools in those 3 cities, and their tuition's being paid.
Representative Scott Sepii, you're always a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this and other subjects. We appreciate your time. There's our discussion on the Education Freedom Act. You can obviously contact Scott Sepii through his office and whatnot, and he can answer any and all questions that you might have. Always a pleasure talking with you, my friend.
Pleasure.
There's Scott Sepii. We'll be back in a moment, 52 after the hour. All right, friends, when it comes to large home repairs, a lot of times homeowners want to pretend that they don't see the warning signs. And when they start pretending that they don't see the warning signs, that's where the danger comes in. Because if you've got doors sticking, windows sticking, if you've got the telltale signs of your foundation settling in a way that it ought not be, you need to call USS. They guarantee their best. Bottom line, we don't know what we don't know, and sometimes it can hurt you, especially when it comes to your home, your home's foundation, and the waterproofing issues that might exist as a result of foundation issues. If you smell a moldy or musty smell in your basement or crawl space, you need to get it handled because that can be damaging the health of your family because of that must and that mold. Let's get with USS. USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com to find out more about what they can do to stabilize that home, making sure that your home is safe, stable, and dry. USSTN.com or 615-488-7855. 488-7855. They guarantee their best at USS.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
All right, lots of details being confirmed by Metro Police on the Antioch High School shooting investigation. We've got that for you at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'll be listening along with the rest of you to Ken Weaver coming up in mere moments on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I also have some other additional information on the Antioch shooting suspect, the individual that took his own life. The Tennessee Star has now obtained the diary and manifesto purportedly left by Antioch High School killer Solomon Henderson, the 17-year-old who police say fatally shot a 16-year-old student, injured 2 more. Law enforcement previously acknowledged the documents were posted online by Henderson prior to his attack. You can call it what you want to call it. I hesitate to call these things manifestos. But it certainly is something. 2 documents include a 51-page manifesto and a 288-page diary. We'll get into the subject matter coming up in just a moment on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We're halfway home. It's just about 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Here comes Ken Weaver in the news.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes, and lots of new details from the Antioch High School shooting investigation. Going to start with Channel 4's Jeremy Finley here. Did some digging on shooter Solomon Henderson's past.
Before he opened fire at Antioch High School, 2 sources familiar with his disciplinary history tell WSMV4 investigates that Henderson had gotten into trouble for bringing a box cutter to school. He'd also been suspended for getting into a fight after he was insulted by a student, and in middle school was disciplined for threatening a teacher. When printed out, the purported writings of Henderson is thick, filled with troubling details, including idolizing mass shooters, instructions on how to make a bomb, photos of him holding a pistol, and plans to launch a school shooting while live streaming it. The streaming platform Kick acknowledged that Solomon did partially live stream the attack on their platform, writing, "We extend our thoughts to everyone impacted by this event." Kick rapidly banned the account and removed the video.
Metro Police have clarified the events leading up to yesterday's tragedy. They now say Henderson was driven to school by his mother and at some point went to a bathroom to post to social media. Once in the cafeteria, police say Solomon fired 10 shots in 17 seconds, killing 16-year-old Jocelyn Escalante and wounding another student before killing himself. The gun, police say, had been purchased by someone in Arizona in 2022 but was not reported as being stolen. ATF is working on finding the gun's origin. President Trump addressing questions from reporters on inflation today. He insists his drilling program will bring down prices.
It just works that way. I mean, it just economically works that way. When the oil comes down, it'll bring down prices. Then you won't have inflation, and then the interest rates will come down.
Trump had just signed an executive order declassifying JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files. And here's Karen Travers with how the president started his day.
President Trump touted the executive actions he has taken in his first days in office to attendees at the World Economic Forum in Davos. He said his message to businesses around the world is very simple.
Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth.
But the president also issuing a threat.
If you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff.
Over in the U.S. Senate, John Ratcliffe has been confirmed to run the CIA, while Pete Hegseth is closer to being confirmed as defense secretary. Senators voting 51-49 to move Hegseth's final vote that is, to later this week. 2 Republicans, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, voting with all 47 Democrats to try to block Hegseth. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief located in Franklin. I was at the Dr. Gill Center earlier this week. My lower back pain, which is an issue that I'm going to have to deal with. I mean, I put myself into this situation, and Dr. Gill gets me out of it repeatedly. Dr. Gill and his team, like Dr. Dominic, I had not had an adjustment in quite some time, went back, and it was like family seeing the crew at the Dr. Gill Center, and they are committed to the same principled purpose, and that is to help you become pain-free in 2025 without the need for needles to block the pain, without the need for pills to cover up the pain, and without the consideration for surgery. Now, if surgery is your last and only option, it is an option, but it should be the last and only option after you exercise every other one. Have you called the Dr. Gill Center? Whether it's back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, I'm a client, and they work to alleviate that pain specific to where you need it. So I encourage you to find out more about the Class 5 laser system, the red light therapy, the spinal decompression, all available at the Dr. Gill Center and all ready to go for you in 2025. Call Dr. Gill. Call the team. You'll be happy you did. Here's the number, 615-882-4838, 882-4838, or call me painfree.com.
All right, near the airport, we've got the left 2 lanes blocked. That's going to be 40 eastbound right there at 216A. Got a crash reported by police. In Smyrna, a crash blocking the right shoulder, 24 westbound right after Almaville Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Here we are, and here we go. Hour number 3 of the Matt Murphy Radio Show on this Thursday edition, Jan 23. Thank you for being a part of the show today, whatever time you're able to give us. I'm very appreciative. I sincerely mean that. So many of you are so kind. Even you haters seem to hate with a kindness in your hearts, and I appreciate that. I love the haters. I mean, they do. They motivate me. Haters are motivators. And you purity keyboard warriors, you keep it coming. I absolutely love hearing from you.
I bet they love being called that, too.
Oh, yeah, they dig it. They dig it. Like what one asked me, hold on, let's see, where was he? One of my, I won't accuse 8695 of being a purity keyboard warrior, but hey, do you two, you're talking about me and Sepii? You two hold hands while y'all do these bits? And I didn't know we had a camera down there showing us holding hands. I guess I should go ahead and admit it. I asked him, I said, you want me to yell more? I can do that. I mean, I'm happy to yell at folks. But y'all keep them coming. We love hearing from you. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. Chris Weber's behind the glass. He's screening all those calls, and he absolutely loves getting them in batches, like in big bunches. So I encourage you just to dump them all on him at once.
I'll be glad when this education bill is in the past, man. I'm telling you. People love to talk about that.
They do. Well, and look,
rightly so.
And listen, I appreciate, especially for those of you that are listening a lot. And look, I want you to listen every day, all day. I want you to start early and finish up late. I want you to crank it up at 5 o'clock in the morning with Dan Mandis, Nashville's Morning News, Chris Hand after him, Chad Benson after him, Matt Murphy till 7 o'clock. Hell, listen to Mark Levin on through the night. That said, those of you that do have heard a lot about this education bill over the last few weeks. Reason, it's important to a lot of people. A lot of people need information. A lot of people need to cut through the clatter. A lot of people have opinions on it. And so Weber loves it. He absolutely loves those controversial topics that a lot of folks have opinions on.
Just makes my day.
I just wish I was a fly on the wall in there in the control area when you get the old, hey, I don't think anybody's brought up the homeschool. Can I get on the...
That's almost as good as, I don't want to go on the air, but...
Wait, let me have a word with you, Mr. Weber. Hey, can you just tell Matt something? You love that one, don't you? You love that one.
That's not how radio works.
No. These are lines for on air. But luckily, you have plenty of ways to communicate with me where you don't have to go through Weber, the grump over there. You can hit me up on social media, at Matt Murphy Show on the X machine. I absolutely love fighting with people over there. If you're not joining me doing that, you're doing it wrong. You can email me. You go to 997WTN.com. You can email me. I bet you could find Ken Weaver's email somewhere on that website.
Let's not talk about that. I just cover the news, boys.
So anyway you want to communicate with us, just understand your phone call is not going to go well. If you call the on-air line at 615-737-9986, especially when you have a text feature. See, there's no excuse anymore. There used to be an excuse. I don't want to go on air, but can you tell him something? Text it.
I haven't thought of that. I'm going to start doing that. No,
but you can
tell me. You can text it, though.
Text it at the same number.
That's a really good. I don't know why I never thought of that.
I just thought of it like 8 seconds ago. Yeah, that there's really no excuse to say that anymore. Nope. But I don't get to hear what goes on in the other room, but I always know when something like that's happening because I can see the producer's facial expressions change.
Yeah.
And for the most part, you try to be nice. You try to be pleasant and polite.
I do my best, yes.
You do your best, but, understand something. If you think that Weber is being rude, and I don't think Chris Weber's ever rude. Let's use Bel K as an example because he's always rude. So Bel K, look, they're doing like 14. They control this. I'm not. They call it the Matt Murphy Show. They ought to call it the Chris Weber Show because he's controlling all the things that are happening on this radio broadcast, including me. So if any complaints you have about me should be routed to Weber too.
Wait a minute.
There you go.
I don't think that's how it works either. Yeah.
I knew we would get around to it. All right, we'll get back to your calls momentarily on that subject and many others. We have some updated information about the school shooter. And look, this individual was mentally unwell. This individual wrote a lot about what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. Frankly, every life is precious, and no one is taking away from the loss of life with this 16-year-old dying and the unfortunate suicide of the 17-year-old who was clearly mentally unwell. That said, based on these writings, this could have been a lot worse because this person seemed intent to, originally we thought it maybe was a crime of passion because there was only one person killed. And then the shooter killed himself. So that's the way it felt right off the jump yesterday afternoon as we were trying to dissect it. But it does not seem that way. It seems that this hatred goes a lot deeper than that. We'll get back into that in just a moment. But we wanted to touch base, as I've been doing these many months since Hurricane Helene. We wanted to touch base over in Western North Carolina with Steve Antel, who is our good friend and our point of contact in Fairview and the surrounding communities. And I am pleased to note that with a new president in the White House, and obviously, the old president, we're not here to talk bad about the old guy, but was he paying the amount of attention necessary to North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, and the affected areas around Hurricane Helene? Certainly, I heard from a lot of people saying that he was not, but you are not going to be ignored any longer as the president of the United States, Donald J. Trump, is set to come to North Carolina tomorrow, it's my understanding, to tell us all of the details as we know them. Steve Antel joins us back on the program. Hey, Steve, I hope you're well.
Hey, Matt, doing very well.
Before we talk about Trump's visit, how are things going over there? You guys have been cold. Everybody doing all right?
Yes, we're still taking care of people that need heat. We're still taking care of people that need blankets and so forth. We still have a lot of people, you know, that are staying in their tents and campers. And let me tell you what, when the temperatures get this cold, even campers, you just can't insulate them enough. So, you know, it's just been something that's been an ongoing battle. But, you know, we've got about another month and a half, 2 months of cold weather that we're going to have to deal with, and we're just taking it day by day.
Well, we're thinking about you guys. Anything you need directly.
Just keep doing what you're doing. I will say, you know, we can always use more of the buddy heaters, the little, they run $50-$60, the little propane space heaters. We've pretty much depleted our supply of them at our supply base. I can put my hands on more elsewhere, but we want to keep the supply of those coming in. So those are a big help.
I would expect that it's a big help what we anticipate tomorrow. J.D. Vance, as a vice president-elect, made a visit to your neck of the woods. I think that was right. It was after the election. Am I remembering that correct, Steve?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And he not only made a visit here, but he came directly to Fairview. He drove right by our house. He went up to Craigtown, and he went to Fairview Volunteer Fire Department, and he met with all of our local people, you know, right here where we live. So.
Well, and I know that it was not only inspiring for the local people there, but it's important to draw attention to the matter, and more attention will be drawn tomorrow as the anticipation is the President of the United States will be there. What do you know about it, Steve?
Well, we think that he's going to be here sometime either late morning or early afternoon. We're not quite sure. They have not released an itinerary of where he's going to go, but based on precedent, he's either going to go to Swannanoa or to Fairview or maybe to both. He definitely has said that he's placing an emphasis on wanting to see what the current status is, so I expect they're going to take him through a lot of the damaged areas that still haven't been repaired. I will say people are greatly optimistic. Even people that don't like Trump, up to and including our governor, who just got elected, our Democrat governor, are very happy to see the president come. I think it speaks volumes about the president's thinking when this is the very first place that he's going to touch ground outside of D.C., is right here in Asheville. So I think that, you know, everybody's very optimistic. I think they're also seeing how he's following through with his promises that he made during the campaign. And while they might not agree with his follow through in other areas, I think they're very optimistic that if he's doing all of that, then he's also going to follow through with us.
Well, one of the things that Donald Trump has such an ability to tap into is the forgotten man, or those that perceive themselves as the forgotten man. And I think it's why he's president of the United States today, that, you know, from a political standpoint, so many folks in flyover country believe that they've been forgotten by Washington, D.C., or the Eastern Seaboard, to include New York City, through, you know, that area of the world. That area and the left coast to get all of the attention, and flyover country gets nothing. And secondarily, particularly when it comes to these natural disasters, not just L.A. and the fires out there, and he's made mention of that, and he will be visiting the fire-ravaged communities of Los Angeles, but he made a point to bring North Carolina and, you know, by extension, Eastern Tennessee, Georgia, and some of the other affected areas, because Donald Trump, when he notices these things, he's not checking it as a box that he should mention it and move on. I think he's really concerned about the inefficacy of some of the federal government's response to these natural disasters.
I would completely agree. We were really happy to hear him mention us in his inaugural address, and now to find out that within the first week of his administration, he's coming right here to where we need him to be. You know, we don't know what shape or form the new administration is going to we don't know what shape or form it's going to look like as far as help for us, but it's got to be better than what we've had. So just the mere fact of him coming and being aware of what's going on and that it's still going on. And, I've emphasized with you many, many times over and over again, this is going to be and is a long and drawn-out deal. This is going to be years and years of infrastructure, rebuilding. People's lives have just been completely upended. And, they don't know when it's going to end. And so just the fact that he's keeping us on the front burner, it makes us feel really good.
A lot of conversation on social media centers around the ability to rebuild. And I don't know, in the many, many times that you and I have talked, and we're talking with Steve Antel. He's my point guy in Fairview, North Carolina, and has been since the beginning of this disaster, this natural disaster that was Hurricane Helene. And he's been so instrumental in that community. I'll sing your praises because I know you won't, Steve. So instrumental in collecting so many valuable pieces of goods and donations, distributing said donations, going to stores, buying things, distributing to the local community over and over again. You've just been you make me realize how much I need to do more in my own community, Steve. But in that regard, a lot of attention is drawn to the ability to rebuild. And I think there's a fine line between an official government entity encouraging members of a community what best practices might be versus mandating or dictating what they have to do. Does that make sense?
Yes. And when you're dealing with a population as independent as the people are here in the mountains, that's a big thing. They don't like
they don't want to be told what to do.
Told what
right.
to do.
Right.
But we still have so much infrastructure stuff that the government can do that needs to be done. Roads, highways. We have mountain roads that are still washed out. We have roads that are still closed. It's still difficult to get places. Even today, doing deliveries, you have to cut through here and cut through there just to get to homes because the normal, pathways are still gone. And while the main roads, like the major highways, are open, we mostly rely on these small back roads to get, to where we're going to go. And I'm still fighting the battles with trying to get people's tiny bridges rebuilt. We're talking about small bridges over small creeks or streams that, there might be one, there might be 5 or 6 houses and families, and they're still having to park and hike to get to their houses. So, that's been an issue. And I think Trump's emphasis on deregulation is really going to help with that because I think, it goes from the top down, and I think that'll help.
So have you considered the possibility that you might be able to meet the man tomorrow? And honestly, there might be an opportunity. He loves shaking hands. He loves talking to people on the ground.
Look, I got one connection. I got one connection to get through to Trump. I got a Fox News reporter who is in my corner, and she will be here tomorrow. But so far, I'm not holding my breath about getting to meet him. I do anticipate that I'm going to be out at the airport because I want to see that big, beautiful plane sitting on the tarmac at AVL, and then we'll go from there. But we got 4 more years, so I might get another shot later on.
Here's what I'll do, Steve. I don't want to brag. I don't want to put all my. I'll tell you what. I'll make a couple of calls back channel. Let's just put it this way: if you get to meet him, you can just give me the old thumbs up. I'll help. No, I'm just kidding. I've got no connections. What am I talking about? But if you were able to meet him and he said to you, Steve, you're on the ground here. Maybe he gets your backstory a little bit and he goes, what do you need from us? And I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but as we finish up here, what would you say to our president of the United States?
I would like to see from the federal level, and I think that it could be done. I think that we need teams to come in here, preferably from the United States Corps of Engineers, to start building some of these small bridges and repair these roadways. I think that the federal government, I'm not up to speed on what all they can and can't do legally, but I'm pretty sure that they can do stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I think that they can also exert pressure on the local authorities to waive some of these rules and regulations. And I also think, it all comes back to money.
Yeah.
And, our governor just appropriated more money, and he's looking to get more money from the feds that can be dispersed here. So, we have a brand new governor, and I didn't vote for him, but, he's both in his campaign and since he's taken office, seems to be doing the same thing, putting this storm repair first. So,
well, Steve, let us know how it goes tomorrow. We're very excited that the president will be landing on the ground and touring some of the devastated areas that have been so underserved thus far by the previous administration. We appreciate the update, and we'll talk again very soon, friend.
yes, sir. Thank you.
There's Steve Antel. He very likely could see the president of the United States. I'm telling you, I don't want to brag, but I'll put in a couple of calls. Let's just put it this way. Steve gets to talk to the president. You know that Murphy's got pull in the right places. Yeah, y'all see how I did that there? Y'all see that? Y'all know what that's called?
Yeah, what's that?
That's called stepping in front of the parade. The parade's coming down the street. You got nothing to do with the parade. Just grab a baton, step right in front. Everybody thinks you.
Yeah, just start marching, baby.
Just start marching. If you keep up, then people give you credit for it. 24 after the hour on Super Talk. Meeting the great folks of Genesis Diamonds is to absolutely love this company and the way they do their business. And I encourage you to go into Genesis Diamonds at either location, Green Hills or Cool Springs, and meet the family-owned atmosphere that is Genesis Diamonds. Here's the deal, folks. They're proud to offer their truly spectacular collection of incredible diamonds, and they've got them from half carat to 15 carats. I don't even know what I would do if I had a 15-carat diamond in my hand, but they have them at Genesis Diamonds. They expand their selection of exquisite hand-picked diamonds at Genesis. They also have brought in even more exclusive designer jewelry, cutting-edge fashion-forward rings. And look, gentlemen, don't be intimidated. They'll feed you baby birds. They've got experienced hands at this type of thing, and they can help you find the right thing for your Valentine's Day loved one at Genesis Diamonds. Go get to Genesis in 2025 and allow their non-commissioned experts to help you celebrate these important milestones in your life, to include Valentine's Day. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs. So Matt Murphy sent you to the one and only Genesis Diamonds.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
I just got a news alert, and it is bad news about jobs in Rutherford County. We've got new details of the Antioch High School shooting investigation, and another one of President Trump's cabinet picks is over the goal line, while another one's getting closer. We'll tell you about it at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm not trying to get in front of Ken Weaver's newscast here, but Pete Hegseth lost a Republican today. I'll talk about that coming up in just a couple of minutes, and we'll listen in as Ken Weaver lets us know who's across the goal line and who is not yet across the goal line. As expected, there are opinion pieces coming out from our liberal friends demanding that we do something about gun control in the aftermath of the Antioch High School situation. This so-called, quote-unquote, manifesto is out, and several of you are wondering, why did this one come out so quickly and we had to wait so long, and it took literally the guts of Michael Patrick Leahy and Brian Wilson. I'll give Brian a lot of credit on this, and I'll give Michael Patrick a lot of credit because Brian, in his capacity with the Drive, had some ins and received some pages from the Covenant School Manifesto. Why did that take so long and this took so quickly, or this didn't take long at all? Well, there's one big reason, and that is the individual in this shooting put all of his stuff online. That's the biggest reason. But there are other reasons why it took so very long to get the release of some of the pages written by the Covenant School shooter, and that was the nature of the individual involved and the questions about who had ownership of those individual pages, whether it was the property of the Metro Nashville Police Department, part of the investigation, and we were privy to it or not. More coming up on that, your telephone calls on that front as well. Donald Trump had a quote-unquote setback in the courts today, but that was an anticipated setback. We'll talk about that as well as the Murphy Show continues on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Channel 4 says 700 people are going to be losing their jobs in Rutherford County. Bridgestone America is announcing today it's going to be closing the Laverne truck and bus radial tire plant. That will be official on July 31st. The company says in a media release the decision is due to a need to operate more efficiently and strengthen its competitiveness. The gun detection technology at Antioch High School was on yesterday but didn't work, according to Metro Nashville Public Schools spokesman Sean Brasted.
Based on the shooter's location, in proximity to the cameras, and it wasn't close enough to get an accurate read and to activate that alarm. The system was activated by police when they brandished their weapons, so there's no foolproof solutions for any of this.
Metro Police say the two school resource officers assigned to Antioch High School were in another part of the building when the gunfire started. By the way, that was 10 shots in 17 seconds. The SROs rushed to the cafeteria and arrived just after the shooter, Solomon Henderson, killed himself. Metro Police still have not established a motive for yesterday's deadly shooting, but they confirm pages of writings and photos of guns posted online are from Henderson. The Tennessee Star, among media outlets, having obtained the documents that includes writings that say death to Israel, death to Palestine. This book is dedicated to killing everyone I hate, death to all Semitic people groups. This book is dedicated to killing the lesser races and taking their women. President Trump has declassified JFK, RFK, and MLK assassination files and his pick to run the CIA, John Ratcliffe, has been confirmed. His pick for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth cleared a key hurdle today, teeing it up for a final vote later this week. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crash left 2 lanes blocked, 40 eastbound at International Airport. And in Smyrna, we have a crash that apparently has just been cleared because it just disappeared in front of my eyes. We also have Lebanon Pike at Jackson Downs Boulevard in Hermitage. Crash reported there. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Friends, Tennessee Men's Clinic is here and available for you. And as long as I can talk to you about them for the next 60 seconds without sneezing, this is going to be a good conversation. But if I have to sneeze, I warn you, I will go away and come back very soon. That said, Tennessee Men's Clinic. You know, here's the deal. I don't know that they could take care of a sneezing fit, but if you have energy loss, if you have energy levels that just aren't what they used to be, if you don't understand where that's going, and if this has manifested itself or presented itself in a couple of specific ways, you need to call the Tennessee Men's Clinic because you could be experiencing a loss of T-level. And that's a natural thing that happens in men over time, but you don't have to put up with it, and you don't have to put up with it when it comes to intimacy with your significant other. You don't have to put up with it when it comes to energy levels at the gym or maybe doing yard work or whatever it might be. I mean, those honey-do lists aren't going to do themselves, guys. So it's time to get with Tennessee Men's Clinic. You can go online to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com to find out more, or better yet, I would encourage you to go ahead and make the appointment by making a call to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Tennessee Men's Clinic is at 615-208-9090. 2 locations, one's in Cool Springs and the other in Midtown. Tennessee Men's Clinic wants to hear from you. TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. John Radcliffe is now the director of the CIA. Senate voting 74 to 25. I will look up the master list and let you know who's gotten through. I mean, obviously, Marco Rubio got through clean sailing. He is a member of the Senate club, right? Members of the club get through fairly easily, typically, regardless of political affiliation. Marco Rubio, no exception, so he is Secretary of State. Did you see where Marco's going first?
Disneyland?
That's a good guess.
Oh.
Any other guesses? Just based on certain verbiage that Donald Trump has used over the last several weeks with regard to foreign policy initiatives that he would like to see undertaken. It's not. Two guesses. First one doesn't count. Panama. The first official trip by Secretary Marco Rubio as Secretary of State will be to Panama.
That's a good one.
That is a good one. I mean, I thought maybe Greenland first, so we can go ahead and get that sale happening and, get that deal done. But, no, Marco Rubio is heading to Panama. The trip to the Central American nation could come as early as next week. Rubio, who was sworn in as Secretary of State late Monday, will be traveling to Panama for his first international trip in the role. Details of the trip are still being finalized. The visit to the Central American nation could come as early as next week. 3 U.S. officials briefed on the plan told Politico that the trip is scheduled to run between late Jan and early Feb. Could also include visits to Costa Rica, El Salvador, the Dominican Republic, and Guatemala. The officials stressed that the travel plans are tentative and could change. State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce. Oh, I didn't realize Tammy Bruce was State Department spokesperson now. Good for her. See Tammy a lot on Fox News. And what the hell's Fox News going to do? They're losing all their people.
Their bench is thin, isn't it?
Man, we should be. Maybe I need to brush up the old resume. See if I can get my headshot updated so I'm not wearing that stupid green sweater that everybody hates.
That would exclude you immediately.
The green?
Yeah.
Everybody hates my green.
Yeah.
I don't know. Y'all are haters. I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. Rubio expected to use the trip to stress at least 2 top foreign policy issues on Trump's agenda, including stopping illegal immigration and Donald Trump's push to regain control of the Panama Canal, according to one current and one former official. In all sincerity, I love the way that Donald Trump negotiates. And if you don't understand it, let me just explain it to you in 30 words or less before we go back to your calls. Maybe 30 seconds or less, not 30 words or less. I don't want to oversell it. If you start with, hey, we're taking the Panama Canal back, then what you're probably going to end with is stop giving breaks to the Chinese, give the United States of America those breaks. You soak the Chinese people because we're a hell of a lot more important than they are with regard to your future. You know what I'm saying? So Panama is a lot more willing to come to the table of negotiation on what they are charging us to move through the canal if Donald Trump says, well, yeah, because remember the reporter said, well, you're not. Surely, Mr. President, you're not talking about military intervention when it comes to, yeah, maybe. Oh, they start clutching their pearls. Donald Trump's going to attack Panama. Why would he put that off the table? Do you not know how a good negotiator works? I'm going to start at the most extreme example that I can and keep you in the room. And then we're going to work in, and we're going to figure it out from there. Have none of my liberal friends ever bought a car? You people are getting soaked. That's what's happening. Luke is next in Shelbyville. Hello, Luke. How are you?
How you doing, Matt?
I'm well. Thank you for calling.
Yeah, thank you for having me, brother. Just real quick, I just want to give a shout-out to President Trump. I have the privilege of working with a nonprofit called RacingForHeroes.org. He was part of one of 22 nonprofits back in 2015 that President Trump showed up and had a fundraiser for. So he missed the first debates that Dukakis in 2015 before he got elected. And everybody gave him so much heck for it. But they raised $6 million for 22 nonprofits. And my brother, Mike Evox, Racing for Heroes, we take veterans out racing, first responders and stuff, wrenching, all the stuff. Anyways, but he's the only president that I have found out, to my point now, I could be wrong, has ever done anything else for anybody else other than themselves and their purpose. So I just want to give them a shout out for that. And man, it's I'm proud to be an American. And
God
Matt,
bless you.
okay, don't worry about your sneezing. If you start making horses stand up when you come in the stables and sneeze and they all jump, you're doing something then.
Man,
But,
I'm so
anyway,
loud with
story.
it scares everybody in the building when I let one go. Thank you, Luke, for the call. 44 after the hour. I almost forgot. So Monday was Inauguration Day, and we suspended Nincompoops in the News, a new and very popular segment in the afternoon time on the Matt Murphy Show. And then Weber was out for 2 days, and I did not feel comfortable because really the Nincompoops are really us. And so I really didn't feel comfortable doing Nincompoops in the News when one of the Nincompoops was at home doing his own thing there with the stomach bug. And so in the absence of those 2 days, I almost failed to do Nincompoops in the News. And if I'm not the only one that forgot about Nincompoops in the News, this might be a very short segment. But Chris Weber, looking fresh off a couple of days of R&R, recovering from his stomach malady, looks ready and rearing to go.
Yep, ready.
And with that in mind, let's make it happen, Weber. You, sir, are first up.
All right, I've got a Florida man story.
Yes, sir.
These are always good. This comes from Broward County, Florida. A Florida Highway Patrol trooper was stationary in a marked vehicle when he observed a gray Kia with dark tinted windows and what he believed to be an altered license plate heading southbound on near mile marker 54, he says. The trooper approached the vehicle, noticed the driver, identified as Carlton Johnson, opening a wallet with a gold star inside. Johnson then claimed, "I am an officer. I am an officer," and continued to insist he was one of you when asked for his driver's license and vehicle registration. Johnson also stated, "I thought we treat each other better," and referred to himself as a deputy. Investigators said the trooper noticed that Johnson was displaying a badge for the Broward County Sheriff's Office, which led him to initially believe that Johnson was a deputy. However, after further questioning, authorities say that Johnson admitted he was not a full-time deputy, stated he was a reserve deputy, and also a relative of basketball star Shaquille O'Neal. The trooper then contacted the Broward County Sheriff's Office to verify Johnson's claims, only to discover that Johnson was not affiliated with the agency in any official capacity. And authorities then say that the badge that Johnson presented was labeled as honorary, and he is not an official law enforcement. It was not an official law enforcement badge. And jail records now show that Johnson is facing one count of fraudulently impersonating an officer. He is actually was named the Broward County Principal of the Year while working at Blanche Ely High School in Pompano Beach recently. I think that he will not win that award this year. He didn't have a whole lot to say after he posted his $2,500 bond, but his attorney, Johnny McCrae Jr., did address reporters, and he says that sometimes when people they say, well, look, I'm a friend of this person or that person, hopefully they'll get a break. That's not illegal. I think everything was just a mix-up. It was confusion. I think it's something that will work out favorably.
It's confusion where you're flashing badges. I don't think that's confusion. I think that's impersonating an officer of the law.
Yeah. The Broward County School District has confirmed that Johnson has been reassigned pending the outcome of the investigation.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Maybe
Officer Johnson.
Maybe he can call his good buddy / relative Shaq.
Yeah.
See if he can help him out a little bit with that.
Good.
He thought, well, the badge isn't working, so maybe if I throw Shaq out there.
Man, I'm not getting the reaction I normally get with this badge thing. Oh, Shaq. Everybody loves Shaq.
That's right.
Friends with the general, too.
Wouldn't give me a ticket.
No, nobody would do that. Mr. Ken Weaver.
All right,
Your
boys.
nincompoop, sir.
Trying to remember where I got this story from. Oh, okay, yeah, CBS.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Top European court backs a woman whose husband got a divorce because she stopped having sex with him. Europe's top rights court. Kind of like our Supreme Court. This one is the European Court of Human Rights, condemning France, saying a woman who refuses to have sex with her husband should not be considered at fault by courts in the event of divorce. The 69-year-old mother of 4, who wished to remain anonymous, hailed the ruling. I hope that this decision will mark a turning point in the fight for women's rights in France. The ruling comes as France, as a society, debates the concept of consent. Women's rights advocates have said the notion of consent must be added to France's law defining rape. The woman did not complain about the divorce, which she had also sought, but rather just about the grounds on which it had been granted. Marriage is no longer sexual servitude, she says. So the woman and this man by the name of J.C. married in 1984. Relations between husband and wife deteriorated when their first child was born. She began experiencing health problems in 1992. In 2002, her husband began abusing her physically and verbally. And in 2004 is when she finally decided to stop having sex with him. Wow. She filed for divorce back in 2012.
Well, what's the holdup?
In 2019, an appeals court just dismissed her complaint full on and said, nope, you're not getting the divorce. So she turned to this European, what was it called? The European Court of Human Rights. And they said, no. She doesn't have to have sex with her husband. Therefore, they're going to award her the divorce.
Yes.
And it's all good.
Yeah, that original court, that's the nincompoops.
It's France.
Wait,
Entire
you can be denied a divorce?
I don't understand that.
What is that about?
I don't understand that.
I'm not.
Takes two to tango.
Yeah, apparently she was going to lose what she was seeking in the divorce.
Oh, man.
Based on that. He was going to win simply because she's no longer getting it on with me. But this guy sounds like a real jackass.
Yeah, he does.
Yep.
So not only is France the nincompoop, but so is JC.
Well, in the interest of time, let me just go straight to my nincompoop, and I got a little audio for this nincompoop. Here is this gentleman. I don't know what he was on CNN. That's what it was.
This medication to
I
adolescents.
said gentlemen.
These are not doctors being forced to provide this medication. These are doctors who are wanting to treat their patients in the best way that they know how based on the best available evidence to us. And these are young people who may have known since they were 2 years old exactly who they are, who suffered for 6-7 years before they had any relief. And what's happening here, it's not the kids who are consenting to this treatment, it's the parents who are consenting to the treatment.
Okay.
And as a parent, I would say when our children are suffering, we are suffering. And these are parents who love their children, who are listening to the advice of their doctors, of the mainstream medical community, and doing what's right for their kids. And the state of Tennessee has displaced their judgment.
This involves the United States Supreme Court review over the state of Tennessee's practices involving minors and transgender procedures. That is American Civil Liberties Union lawyer Chase Strangio, who I mistakenly referred to as a gentleman. He's actually a woman who has now transitioned into acting as a guy. The trans rights activist, who is a transgender male, I guess presents as a male, born a female, appeared on the left-wing digital news show Democracy Now!, slamming President Donald Trump, slamming the state of Tennessee. In doing so, he was asked a question about trans people, and he referred to biological women as non-transgender women.
Oh my gosh.
Now, think about this. So he referred to women not as women, but as non-transgender women. So why not just call them women, dude?
Right.
Or lady, or whatever you are. I don't know.
And did I hear him say that
Yes,
a
you did.
child starts wondering exactly what they are when they're two?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, sure.
They cannot prevent themselves from pooping in their diaper, but they know exactly that they were assigned the wrong gender. I ought to thank these nincompoops for telling us exactly who they are, so we know exactly who they are, because they are, well, morons. Or more appropriately for this segment, they're nincompoops. There you go. That's nincompoops in the news. That's Chris Webber, Ken Weaver, Matt Murphy. Vote as you will. 615-737-9986. You get to vote and tell us who is the nincompoop of the day. We'll be back momentarily on Super Talk. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I'm about to shoot an HNK suppressed MP5 full auto, and I think I'm going to like it. That's right. It's Matt Murphy, and I'm going over to the Glock store tomorrow morning. I needed to get some training in anyway, and so off I go to the Glock store, to the shoot270.com indoor range. They have private shooting rooms and personal instructors assigned to you for your training session. Why? Because you train better that way. That's why. You get more out of your training session that way. After every session, you walk out a better and more confident shooter. And throughout the month of January, all you have to do is mention my name. And by the way, just in a friendly competition, I would just mention thank you for mentioning my name. I think I'm 3 names ahead of Dan Mandis and a little more ahead of Chris Hand in that regard. I'm just saying, friendly competition. The incredible, incomparable shoot270.com ranges are the real showcase here, and you're the real winner because you get to shoot a full auto H&K suppressed MP5, no matter whose name you decide to mention. Go to Glockstore.com or shoot270.com for more information. Only in Nashville, only at my place to train. I'll be there in the morning. I'll see you minutes away from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere at the Glock Store.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
6 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories, full forecast, and traffic in 5 minutes. And new details about the deadly Antioch High School shooting investigation. Here's Channel 4's Jordan James.
Metro Police tell us that Solomon Henderson was dropped off by his mother at the school. Initially, they thought he rode the bus here. Following that, the 17-year-old made his way into the bathroom to post on social media. At some point, Henderson allegedly made his way to the cafeteria, where investigators say that he fired 10 shots less than 17 seconds, resulting in a 16-year-old girl dying along with himself. During the gunfire, another student was grazed. Investigators say that Henderson was found with a loaded gun. Officers also searched his home. We were there yesterday when that took place, and they say no other weapons were found. Now, Metro Police say they have found out that the gun that he was in possession of was purchased by someone in Arizona back in 2022, but was not reported as being stolen. As a result, they're working with the ATF and the FBI to learn more about its origins.
As for motive, Metro Police say they have confirmed disturbing writings posted online are from the shooter. 2 documents. One is 51 pages in length, the other 288 pages that include admiration for mass school shooters and hatred for Jews. President Trump, White House correspondent Karen Travers says a federal judge in Seattle is blocking the executive order in birthright citizenship, saying it appears to violate the 14th Amendment, which says somebody born in the U.S. is a U.S. citizen.
President Trump said this isn't over with this temporary restraining order.
No, obviously we'll appeal it. They put it before a certain judge in Seattle, I guess, right? And there's no surprises with that judge.
That federal judge was appointed by President Ronald Reagan. This ruling was the first legal test of President Trump's executive order reinterpreting the 14th Amendment's guarantee of birthright citizenship. The president faces at least 5 separate lawsuits over the policy.
John Ratcliffe confirmed as Trump's pick for CIA director. Pete Hegseth closer to being confirmed as defense secretary. The U.S. Senate voting 51-49 today to move Hegseth's nomination to the final vote later this week. 2 Republicans, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, voting with all 47 Democrats to try to block Hegseth. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler families have agreed to a new and bigger settlement to resolve mass opioid litigation. Here's Aaron Katersky.
The U.S. Supreme Court said the Sackler families couldn't automatically be shielded from litigation from those who didn't buy into the settlement under the terms of Purdue Pharma's bankruptcy. The company was filing for bankruptcy, not those individuals. So that provision is gone, but the money has increased significantly, $7.4 billion to roll out over a period of 15 years, and it will immediately go to all these states and cities and towns and communities that were ravaged by the opioids crisis.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Friends, it's Matt Murphy for Men of Valor. Men of Valor understands that most of the men that go into the prison system are going to get out of the prison system. And sadly, so much of our tax dollars go into the incarceration of men within the system. Now, obviously, it's money well spent, particularly considering that we're getting criminals off the street and they're getting the punishments that they deserve. But also understanding that while most of these men are getting out, they're not being rehabilitated in the system with any degree of effectiveness. Sadly, 50% of the men that get out will commit again in the next 3 years. But when they go through the Men of Valor program, when they find the power of God, when they are discipled by God's people, That number goes down to under 20%. As a matter of fact, it's under 15% recidivism when you are dealing with Men of Valor graduates. That's an incredible rate of return. Men of Valor is not only saving us money, but they're saving souls, they're saving lives, and they're taking criminals off the streets in real time. Men of Valor needs job partners, Bible study teachers, mentors that can disciple men in their everyday lives. They need volunteers in the system and at their campus for their aftercare reentry services. Is that you? menofvalorministry.com. That's MOVministry.com. That's MOVministry.com to find out more about this wonderful organization that is Men of Valor.
Most of the brake tapping is, of course, eastbound 24, but looks like that starts improving before you get to Bell Road. Now, we've got northbound 65 looks a lot better, but if you're trying to go eastbound on 440, that's where you're going to run into some brake tapping, especially all the way over to 24. North of town, we've got slowdowns on 65 to go to Hendersonville and Goodlettsville. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Let me finish this up. Stand by, friends. Just stop being stupid. Okay. Yeah, I was posting a little. I was posting something. No, not to a liberal, not to a loyal listener. I was posting something to Representative Andy Ogles.
Ooh.
That finished up Just Stop Being Stupid. And I'll tell you what it was. By the way, it's the final hour of the Matt Murphy Show. There's Chris Weber behind the glass, Ken Weaver behind him in News Closet B. We're keeping you abreast and informed as to what's going on in the news and besides. Look, Andy, Representative Andy Ogles of the 5th Congressional District, sadly, I've reached out to him on a number of occasions, and I'm pretty done with it. I'm not going to beg your representative to speak to you. He should want to speak to you, and I've done nothing to the man. He decided to stop coming on my show because I had some questions about whether or not the FBI was investigating him for any particular reason and whether or not that was going to come to something. He lost his phone, and then he just lost his ability to call us one way or the other. I don't have anything against Ogles except to say I wish he was more responsive to the people of the 5th Congressional District. And I wish that he didn't do stupid things like I'm about to describe to you. Representative Andy Ogles is very proud of the fact that he has just introduced a resolution to amend the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. I'll just read from the press release, okay? And maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe I'm the stupid guy. With everything going on in the world, with all that we have to do, we've got troops amassing at the southern border with a national declaration of emergency. We've got drilling that needs to happen. We've got offshore stuff that we've got an inflationary rate that is unacceptable. We've got foreign wars to shut down. Donald Trump's working on those things. Congress has a lot to do. We've got to get Senate confirmation for the cabinet to happen. And I understand that's not the House of Representatives, and you can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. But Congressman Andy Ogles says let's put all of that aside, because Congressman Ogles has introduced a joint House resolution, or a House joint resolution. I thought it was a joint House resolution. This says House joint resolution. Maybe I'm wrong. One way or the other, Congressman Ogles wants to amend the Constitution of the United States of America in order to allow a president of the United States to be elected for up to, but no more than 3 terms in office. He's calling it the Give President Trump a Third Term Act. Representative Andy Ogles is proposing amending the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution to allow Donald Trump to serve a third term. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than 3 times, nor be elected to any additional term after being elected to 2 consecutive terms, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Congressman Ogles says in his press release, I'm reading from his House website. Y'all tell me, am I the only one that thinks this is dumb? Unnecessary?
I just covered the news, Brother Murphy.
President Trump's decisive leadership, says Ogles, stands in stark contrast to the chaos, suffering, and economic decline Americans have endured over the past 4 years. He's proven himself to be the only figure in modern history capable of reversing our nation's decay and restoring America to greatness. And he must be given the time necessary to accomplish that goal. To that end, I am proposing an amendment to the Constitution to revise the limitations imposed by the 22nd Amendment on presidential terms. This amendment would allow President Trump to serve 3 terms, ensuring that we can sustain the bold leadership our nation so desperately needs, writes Ogles. He continues, it's imperative that we provide President Trump with every resource necessary to correct the disastrous course set by the Biden administration. President Trump has shown time and time again that his loyalty lies with the American people and our great nation above all else. He's dedicated to restoring the republic and saving our country, and we as legislators and as states must do everything in our power to support him. Okay, so obviously I agree that Donald Trump is a uniquely qualified individual in unique circumstances and in a quite unique time. We need real leadership in the 5th Congressional District and not this ridiculous level of pandering. And that's what this is. Number one, if Andy Ogles' bright idea goes to fruition, it not only applies to people like Donald J. Trump, but it will apply to others that we don't like so much. Like, I don't know, people... You know, this would actually give Barack Obama the opportunity to run for president again. Did y'all know that? I mean, he served 2 consecutive, but this would give him another chance to serve another 4 years. So Barack would be back in the mix in 2028 if Andy Ogles wanted him to be, or if Andy Ogles had his way. Secondarily, Donald Trump's 78 years old, and I do believe that Donald Trump's the right man for this job. But I also believe in America more than I believe in Donald Trump. I do. No, I believe Donald Trump's the man for the job. Don't get me wrong, but he's 78 years old, meaning he'll be 82 years old by the end of his term. I'm on record as saying I don't want anyone. I don't believe that we should allow people above the age of 80 to run for president of the United States, and that includes Donald Trump. I also have concerns about Andy Ogles that he says that Donald Trump is the, quote, only figure in modern history capable of reversing our nation's decay and restoring America to greatness. Well, I understand that he is perhaps the best person to do so, but J.D. Vance looks pretty capable. Heck, Ron DeSantis looks pretty capable. I mean, he's no Donald Trump, but he looks capable. What say you? Maybe I'm judging too harshly that Andy Ogles, perhaps he's gotten everything that he needs to get done for the 5th Congressional District already taken care of. But Andy says we need to get this done. 9898 writes in and says, this should have been your story, Matt. He sounds like a nincompoop. You know, here's the struggle I'm having. I didn't see this until about 6:05 this evening, so this is hot off the presses. Let me just give you some of the reactions that you've got for me. 615-737-9986. 6670. What the actual bleep? Ogles needs his head examined. 2222. So don't support the VP and ride him to victory and continue the Trump agenda. No, I do. I support the VP. I support Vance. That's the point. 2528. People are going to say Trump put him up to it. We don't need that. if we thought the Dems had already flipped their bleep enough just to wait, I wouldn't put it past Trump for putting it up to it. I also don't see this passing. No, it's not going to pass. Presidents are 2 terms for a reason, said 0358. Now, 0978, Andy is a Democrat plant. This is their bleep dream that fulfills their dictator fantasy. I won't tell you what the bleep is in that bleep dream, but it's not dry. Let's put it that way. 2237, I love Trump, but he'd be too old. Ogles has stepped in it. Stephanie, we love Donald Trump more than just about anybody, but this is a hard no. Rules are rules, and he doesn't get a 3rd term. Kathy, Matt, Andy Ogles is trying to confirm liberal fears about Trump becoming a dictator. Chris, Trump will be too old by then. 3347, we'll never get the votes in Congress. You would never get 2/3 of the states to ratify it. Ogles is stupid. 9210, why should only the executive branch be subject to term limits? The Constitution, of course, but is it correct? Look, I don't have a problem talking about term limits, but I would talk about term limits for people like Andy Ogles as opposed to extending term limits to the President of the United States of America. This is absurd. This is pandering. Your reactions, my reaction, very similar. I wish I could have Representative Ogles on to talk to him about it. I think he's lost his absolute mind. Sadly, he chooses. I mean, and I'm all for him. I think he still comes on Dan Mandis' show in the morning, and I'm all for it. I'm all for him coming on any show, any presentation of himself before the people of the 5th Congressional District. He won't talk to me anymore. And if he would, I would tell him that this was simply a dumb idea. And you're handing the liberals a victory. The liberals want you to believe that Donald Trump wants to be a dictator. Oh, Trump put him up to it. I mean, you guys are exactly right. And do we not have more important things? We are just getting started with 2nd term here. Not only will Donald Trump age out, the idea that we don't have a bench is just ridiculous. Andy, where have you been? Have you not seen J.D. Vance lately? Do you not know the name Ron DeSantis? Have you not seen have you not seen Byron Donalds? Have you not seen some of the other up-and-comers that are ready to fill those roles vacated by Donald Trump once he takes care of his business over the next 4 years? I have to. Do you have the super text pulled up in there? Probably for good reason. If you don't,
I do not. No.
Sometimes I just shoot down the line as they come in. On this, I have to pre-read them. For example, 5689. He needs to stop ogling Trump's bleep.
Well, all right.
Andy's an idiot. Would our country be better or worse only if the elections are trustworthy? Mark, J.D. Vance, 2028. 8838, sounds like Andy is pandering to Don. It's absurd. Bob, I'm with you on this, Matt. Donald Trump is the right guy for the term. He's not the only one, though. He's the wrench that was intended to be thrown into the machine and break it. Man, that is so well said, Bob. You're exactly right. And 8646, Ogles is wasting his time with this foolish stunt. Ogles has done these things over and over again, and I got to say that I don't have anything personally against Andy. Andy, if you happen to be listening, I don't. I like you as a person. I think you are performative, and I think you are a horrible disappointment in the 5th Congressional District, and I hope someone of a good caliber runs against you in the 5th Congressional District to sharpen your blade, sir. Because based on this, it needs to be sharpened. It is 6:20 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the one and only U.S. Pest. I mention this often with good reason because I love that this company is not only American-born, American-bred, and they're so good at what they do, eliminating pests in your home, in your basement, your crawl space, in your walls, but they love this country, and they understand the blessings of freedom and liberty presented to us by the United States of America. So much so, I'm proud to say, when I drive through this community, when I look up at these billboards with U.S. Pest on the billboard, you always see that American flag somewhere flying proudly, oftentimes right above that billboard. Why? Because they love America, and they love what they do, and that is eliminate pests from your home. U.S. Pest can do so if you're worried about pest control in your home, if you've noticed an increase in bugs, roaches, whatever it might be, if you're worried about having mice or rats in your basement or your crawl space, you need to call U.S. Pest. They offer full-service pest control, termite protection, and crawl space service available to you with 100% money-back guarantees. U.S. Pest. Call today at 590-1260 and schedule that free inspection, no obligation inspection, 590-1260, or go online to uspest.com for the one and only U.S. Pest.
New details from the Antioch High School shooting investigation and the day's closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Ken Weaver. 24 minutes after the hour right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Man, a lot of reaction to this Andy Ogle story. I can't, I was reading the super text and, culling through some of the more dangerous super text. And then I looked over on the YouTube page on Super Talk TV, and they're much worse over there. My goodness gracious. These folks got potty mouths.
Wow.
I mean, freedom of speech and all, but my goodness gracious. Hey, Matt Murphy, grab the mic like you really mean it and remind all these folks to like and share and subscribe to this channel. Okay. Like and share and subscribe to our channel, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you.
I don't think you really grabbed the mic like you meant it, though. There you go.
Watch out. I don't want to break the studio before they redo it.
Save that for Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, we can do that on Fridays. It's, it's just the reaction's not been good. Let's get to Jay in Clarksville. Hey, Jay, what's up, man?
Not much. I assume you're talking about Mr. Ogle's, that resolution to give Trump a third term?
Yes. Andy Ogles has offered a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America that would allow for Donald J. Trump to serve a third term in office, saying, quote, he has proven himself to be the only figure in modern American history capable of reversing our nation's decay and restoring America to greatness, and he must be given the time to accomplish that goal.
Well, he made a lot of promises, and looks like he's got a lot of delivering he has to do. I mean, he's delivered on a few. But, give it a few months, we'll see where it goes. Andy, you just disappoint me. Maybe we should have seen this coming. Do you guys think he's delusional? Maybe he needs a mental health, checkup or something.
I don't know. I mean, it really isn't personal. I think Andy's a nice enough guy. Andy is sadly performative in his office. I don't think he really has his thumb on the needs of his constituents to the point that he's really trying to address their needs. And look, I don't want to say much else because I get accused of being anti-Andy. I've been hot and cold with Andy Ogles, but as I said a minute ago, Andy's absence in the aftermath of the FBI deal, where he refused to come on and speak to the people of the 5th Congressional District, cut it off in me. Andy was absent leading up to the November elections for 3 months because he did not want to talk about the FBI taking his phone and why they did it and what the nature of all of that was. And I hope, because I believe in the best representation for the people possible, Jay, I hope that Andy Ogles has some robust competition during the next primary season coming up next election cycle.
Well, sir, I hope you're right. But, Andy, you missed your chance. Joe is giving away some pardons. Maybe you should apply for one of those, maybe, something like that. Because you're sounding like a Democrat to me more than a Republican.
Well, I mean, it's just
go.
Thank you, Jay, for the telephone call. It's just really too bad. Todd is next up out of Murfreesboro. Todd, what do you got?
Hey, Matt. First of all, love having you in the evening.
Thank you, brother.
Great drive home. Appreciate you and your perspective. Andy's just out of touch with this, man. So, real leadership would have come in and said something. In fact, if we're going to talk term limits, Congress needs to term limit themselves. We need six terms for reps and 2 terms for senators and get everybody on board. Let's do it with, clean the swamp. But like you said, and you laid it out there, it's pandering and common sense, conservatism. We're not going to go for that. Just complete nonsense.
Yeah, it's just a non-starter, and I would not be surprised based on what I expect. And thank you, Todd, for the call. I want to get to one more before we go to Ken's newscast. I would not be surprised based on the immediate reaction, the snap reaction on this radio show, the snap reaction amongst the 5th Congressional District, and what I expect to be the robust reaction come the next several days. I would not be surprised whatsoever if Andy pulls this and pretends like it never happened, because it is just silly. Real quick with Samantha in Franklin. Samantha, thank you for the call. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good.
I just wanted to say I'm sorry that Andy didn't talk to you. I would have liked to hear from him also, but I get regular emails from him, and I'm in his district. And so I just wanted to say that in all fairness. He was in touch with us. I will say I don't agree with this proposal for a third term for Trump. I am a Trump supporter. I do like what he's doing, but we have a constitution, and Ted Cruz was not born in the United States. I disagreed with him trying to become president. I disagreed with Obama saying that he was going to serve a third term, which he kind of did behind the scenes of Biden. But, that's why our Constitution is in place, to not give too much power to any one person. And I don't think Trump would abuse the power, but that's why our Constitution is in place. And it would take a constitutional convention to make a change to allow for a third term. And that is just too risky. A constitutional convention right now is too risky with the opposition trying to take over and create a Marxist society. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samantha. Great call. We've got 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the news.
It's 6:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes and new details from the Antioch High School shooting investigation. Channel 4's Jeremy Finley doing some digging on the shooter, Solomon Henderson's past.
Before he opened fire at Antioch High School, two sources familiar with his disciplinary history tell WSMV4 investigates that Henderson had gotten into trouble for bringing a box cutter to school. He'd also been suspended for getting into a fight after he was insulted by a student, and in middle school was disciplined for threatening a teacher. When printed out, the purported writings of Henderson is thick, filled with troubling details, including idolizing mass shooters, instructions on how to make a bomb, photos of him holding a pistol, and plans to launch a school shooting while live streaming it. The streaming platform Kick acknowledged that Solomon did partially live stream the attack on their platform, writing, "We extend our thoughts to everyone impacted by this event." Kick rapidly banned the account and removed the video.
Money News, Michelle Franzen.
Markets were up in Thursday trading on Wall Street. The Dow gaining 408 points. The S&P ticked up 32, and the Nasdaq was up 44 at the end of trading. In a video address to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, President Trump told global business leaders the U.S. is open for business. But he also doubled down on plans for controversial new trade tariffs. The president also pledged cheaper prices and lower interest rates. The company and the family behind the drug OxyContin have agreed to increase their financial contribution to resolve mass opioid litigation. Under the new deal, the Sacklers will no longer have protection from future lawsuits. The number of Americans filing claims for first-time jobless benefits ticked up last week. The total number of Americans receiving unemployment benefits is now 1.9 million, the most since November 2021.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. I only see one crash on the interstates right now. That is going to be 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dr. Poss, that's Dr. Stephen Poss. Dr. McLaughlin, that's Dr. Brian McLaughlin, and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. These are great names, great organization, and they do great things to help you get energy levels back to where they need to be, help you sleep better at night, and to help your loved one, your spouse, your significant other sleep better as well. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Poss, Dr. McLaughlin, Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. For those who cannot wear a CPAP machine, if you know that you have sleep apnea, if you know that you are CPAP intolerant, if you're just, kind of putting up with it right now and you don't get good sleep at night, if you're not breathing properly in the night, you're never going to get good sleep. Or if you snore a lot and you're keeping your loved one up, you need the new FDA-approved oral device that gently supports your jaw, helping you be able to breathe better. You snore less and you sleep better without a hose, without mask. And I know because I am a patient of Dr. Stephen Poss and Dr. Brian McLaughlin's. They're also in network with BCBS, Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, Medicare, a preferred provider for TRICARE for the military. They have 2 locations to serve. Look, if you've been sleeping poorly, if your partner is frustrated, call today. Start your journey at drposs.com, drposs.com, and tell them Matt Murphy sent you.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing. Three amendments to the United States Constitution directly dealt with the aftermath of the Civil War. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution of the United States of America were passed in fairly quick succession in the aftermath of the conclusion of what is sometimes commonly referred to as the war between the states. I'm getting into this in just a moment to help understand the context by which Donald Trump is attempting to get a definitive answer on the issue of birthright citizenship. In the meantime, Donald Trump has announced today through executive order that he wants the RFK files opened, the MLK files opened, and for most of us, most interestingly, the JFK files opened with few, if any, redactions. Sadly, a lot of redactions happened over the years when we do get drips and drabs of the JFK files. I find myself in an interesting position. I've not changed my opinion. I've been to Dealey Plaza. I've been to the 6th floor book depository. I've seen the grassy knoll. Seen it. Seen it. And I've never changed my position on JFK. I went into it deep at one point in my life. I've read many of the books. I don't claim I've read all of them. I've talked to these weirdos that stand outside the book depository building, you know, because it's a museum now, at least the upper floors is a museum now, and you can see where the sniper's nest was. You can see where they found the gun. So I've been there. And there was a time in my life where I was in the mainstream, and the mainstream has shifted so dramatically that I am now the conspiracy theorist. Would you care to guess my theory, Mr. Weber, on the JFK assassination?
Oh, I wouldn't dare. I would like to hear it, though.
I believe that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone.
Really?
I believe there was a lot of anger and frustration and momentum building against JFK. I think much like we have found in certain periods in history, that bubbling came from a lot of different sources and a lot of different places. I'm not here to pretend that there weren't entities that wanted JFK dispatched of, but I am now the conspiracy theorist. And I know that, right? Most Americans, when I was 20 years old, believed that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Now, a wild number of Americans believe that there was something else going on and that he was either involved or, as he famously declared before being killed by Jack Ruby, a patsy. I'm a patsy. But maybe we'll all find out together. Who knows? The JFK files will be presented. I fear that there's going to still be the number of redactions involved that will keep us from the truth. And you know what? Here's the bottom line. Everybody's decided what they believe happened, whether it was the CIA or LBJ or the Cubans or whatever. If it does not answer the question in the way that they think it should answer the question, they'll just say, oh, well, that's a cover-up. It's a cover-up. Covered it up. Magic bullet. I would encourage you to read, if you've never, Mark Furman, who obviously was the detective with the Los Angeles Police Department, who investigated the aftermath of the Nicole Brown Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson and
Cato.
I'm trying to remember the other guy that got killed.
Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman.
Yeah.
Was that him?
Is that his name? Ron?
Or was that his dad?
Ron Goldman.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
If we stretch this long enough, somebody on the super text line will tell us. So,
yep, Ron Goldman.
Ron Goldman. Okay, those murders. Obviously, Mark Furman investigated that, and eventually he was found to lie on the stand. And famously, F. Lee Bailey caught him in a lie, having never said the N word, and all of these types of things. And his name was dragged through the mud. But in the aftermath of that, Mark Furman wrote a number of books from his background as a detective, and one of them was called A Simple Act of Murder, breaking down the JFK assassination and trying to figure out who did what and how. And he came to a similar conclusion that I have come to in my research. And look, one man's opinion is as valuable as one man's hiney. So, I mean, I'm not saying I know definitively, and you don't either, but everybody's got a thought on it. Lee is next in Columbia with a thought on Andy Ogles. Hello, Lee.
Hey, Matt, good to talk to you.
Yes, sir.
Listen, admire your show, agree with you a lot of the time, and I am in no way, shape, or form supporting what Antioch is proposing here. I think it's ludicrous and it's un-American. I support most of what he's done, but listen, you well know that he was not hiding during the last campaign. I've sent you proof of that. Just because you got crossways with him and he wouldn't come on your show doesn't mean that he wasn't making media appearances. He wasn't showing up in his district at local meetings that were well published. I've sent you pictures. I've sent you invitations. So please stop trying to tell the people of the district that Andy was hiding and Andy was absent and not to be found, because that is not true. He would not come on your show because of.
He wouldn't come on Dan. He wouldn't come on Dan's show either. Wouldn't come on Chris's show either. Wouldn't come on any program of any note in Middle Tennessee and in the 5th Congressional District during that period in time, Lee.
He would on other stations. He was on other stations.
Well,
but he was not on WWT.
I hope he fully answered the questions about some of the accusations being made against him. And look, I mean, it's fine. Okay, you say that he was available to the citizens of the 5th Congressional District. Okay, that's fair.
He was.
That's good.
Public meetings.
That's
I've got
good.
Pictures with him. Yeah. So, but listen, just call them like they are. This is ludicrous. It's crazy what he's proposing here. Yeah, call it like it is.
Do you believe that he is well representing the 5th Congressional District?
I think overall he is.
Okay.
But again, this is a new development. I just found out about it from you 15 minutes ago.
I voted, and by the way, I should note, I voted for Andy Ogles in the primary.
Good.
And Andy and I were all good, and then Andy had his phone snatched by the FBI, and we wanted to know what was up with that. And Andy just shut us off, shut us down, you know.
Yeah. I'm sure his attorneys were telling him not to talk about it. Listen, he's not been charged. You know, don't we have a principle in this country that you're innocent until you're proven guilty? He's not even been charged.
I'm not saying Lee. Hold on, don't get in front of. I'm not saying Andy did anything wrong.
But it imply it though when you say he won't come on and talk about it when it's an open case and it's an open investigation. Supposedly. They did.
I'm not Lee. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Lee. If you heard me imply any sort of thing about Andy Ogles and the FBI, then I sincerely I'm not I just want to know why they took his phone, what his thoughts are on it. Is the FBI engaging in this type of Department of Justice overreach? If this case is going to be closed as a result, what was the nature of the case? Did it involve the fact that Andy, as he has admitted now, overestimated the amount of campaign contributions that he had brought in 2022 by some $351,000? I mean, maybe that was all that it was. I mean, I'm not accusing him of anything. I just would like to know why the FBI decided to take his phone, and if we need to go after the FBI for going after one of our duly elected congressmen in good standing with the state of Tennessee.
All right, well, I'm sure none of us know all the facts, but you know well that lawfare was going on during the Biden administration. The same thing happened to Todd Warner 4 years ago. The FBI never has returned his stuff and never brought charges against him and never has even said the investigation is closed. So if they haven't found what they charged other people in the state going to trial within the next couple of months. And people have pled guilty, but they still have not returned Todd Warner stuff or brought charges or brought closure to that case.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Todd Warner's case, but I would love to learn about that a little bit more. And I certainly would love to. I don't have anything against Andy. Andy and I got crossways because I found out that he had overestimated the value of his campaign contributions in 2022. I called him out on that, and he got his butt hurt about it. And we patched that up, Lee. And I had him on, and I thought we were all good. And then this happens, and he shuts us down. And it ain't about me. It's about the 5th Congressional District. You say that he goes on all these other shows, and he does. He goes on Dan Mandish's show. I'm glad he does. But I would hope that he would be as able to defend himself in this regard on this show as he does at these meetings that you say he goes out to. So
think about it. If your attorneys instruct you not to say anything about the open investigation against you, what else can you do? If you know that.
Right. And so why wouldn't you go on a friendly show like mine and just say that?
I don't know. I don't know what his attorneys have instructed him. I'm not asking the question, but you've got to think.
Well, if Andy Ogles is not his own man enough to be able to speak for himself and gets told to do what to do by some attorneys, then I don't know that he's the right guy for the 5th Congressional District. I'm just sorry.
Well, with my legal background, I say you always follow your attorney's instructions, or else you've got to get.
Well, and I would say to you, particularly when it comes to politics, that attorneys, as you know, then Lee, are incredibly risk averse, aren't they?
They are.
Right, and so attorneys are going to be they are going to avert risk with regard to exposure, rather than expose their clients to the possibility of getting to the truth of any given matter if they think there are background legal ramifications coming on the back end. So sometimes those two things work together, and sometimes they work in opposition to one another.
When there's a history and a precedence of lawfare from an adverse administration, I think it's best to follow your attorney's advice and not expose yourself to anything.
Well, with the new Department of Justice in place, Andy shouldn't have any problem getting all of that taken care of, and then he can come on and tell us what it was all about, hopefully.
Yeah, I should hope. And I'm not here saying that Andy has never done anything wrong. I don't know all the facts. You brought up some very legitimate questions, and I think you're doing your job by doing that, and that's good. And I don't fault you for that.
Well, it's not personal. I mean, trust me, I dig the guy, and he won by a wide majority and got my primary vote. He did not receive, Lee, my general election vote. I did not vote in the general election because I did not believe. And, you know, smart people and truthful people and earnest people can disagree on this point. But I did not see it. I do not recall that Andy was very forthcoming with his time. Did he? Yes, he appeared at friendly. He appeared at friendly functions. Certainly he did. But he was not very available leading up to the November elections. It's 49 after the hour on Super Talk. Do you know how easy it is to get more information about Stoltz Co.? You know, they are the go-to company when it comes to pole barns, the go-to company when it comes to everything you need to build on your property. All you have to do is go to stoltz.com. stoltz.com and find out more about the incredible people that run Stoltzco. And they can help you. They can customize a solution to whatever your need might be, and they encourage you to go to their website, stoltz.com. You spell it out, and you will get to satisfaction. If you're thinking about an event space or an equestrian barn, if you're thinking about a garage or a pole barn, or even, yes, a barn dominium, they have so many barn dominiums in this community, and they can show you examples of what you can do with your property to make it even more valuable than it already is. Allow Stoltzco to build you a high-quality custom structure at a reasonable price. Stoltzco is the leading company in this community with first-class customer service in the creation of post-frame buildings, as I just mentioned. Give them a call today and get a home to retire in, a future home, a place for the in-laws to hang out, or a place for you to hang out on the weekends. 615-622-5992. 622-5992 for Stoltzco. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Let's clean up a couple of items we've not been able to get to quite yet. I promised a conversation about birthright citizenship for the last 2 days, and I don't think I'm going to get to it. Here's the bottom line. There's a question about what the purpose behind the 14th Amendment truly was and what it says regarding citizenship in the United States of America, and whether or not the intent of the framers of the 14th Amendment was to create a dynamic by which anyone that happens to be in the United States of America when they give birth are giving birth to an American citizen by the nature of their location. A federal judge in none other than Seattle, Washington, has temporarily blocked President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship for the children of illegal immigrants. They are also known as anchor babies, inasmuch as back in the day, way back in 06, 07, 08, when this conversation was being had, I was debating it on talk radio at the time. We've been talking about this for that long. And there was a question then, as there is now, as to whether or not the original intent of the Founding Fathers, the framing of this, or not the Founding Fathers, but the framers of the 14th Amendment, intended for it to include those that come in, have babies, for the purpose of anchoring themselves into the country based on the legality of those babies now as citizens. U.S. District Judge John, Great Googly Moogly, Coffiner, issued a temporary restraining order to block the executive action at the request of 4 Democrat states, Washington, Oregon, Arizona, and Illinois, which argued that Trump's order would deny rights to 150,000 people born every year in the United States of America. The question is what the United States Supreme Court would say with regard to birthright citizenship guaranteed by the 14th Amendment. It was intent. The 13th Amendment banned slavery. The 14th Amendment certified that those that were enslaved became full American citizens after the Civil War. Donald Trump promised this action and knew that it would draw a legal challenge. A group of 18 states and 2 cities, San Francisco and Washington, filed separate lawsuits against the order in Massachusetts federal court. I love the fact that this is in the court system. I love the fact that they're going to answer the question, and I don't know how they're going to answer the question, frankly. Perhaps they will suggest that the nature of the language written in the Constitution does include all individuals born into the United States of America. But it does not answer the question. What happens if you're on vacay? If you're here, I think I heard it was either Chris Hand or Chad Benson who said, what if you're skiing, you're on a ski trip, and plop, you have a baby. You didn't know. You're a month early. Is that baby an American citizen if you're from France? Or I don't know why you'd be skiing over here if you're from France. They got plenty of slopes. All right. We're going to call it a day. We've got a fun-filled First Amendment Freestyle Friday. Tomorrow, Fry J is included in that, and your telephone calls as well. I've had fun. I hope you have as well. The great one, Mark Levin, is coming up next. For Ken Weaver in the newsroom, for Chris Weber in the Operations Center, I'm Matt Murphy. Have a great night. So long, everybody.
Companies developing AI.
There have been calls within the industry to recognize that this is going to be a technology that affects so much of what the American way of life looks like going forward. It's not just in the tech industry. This is medicine.